He's got the run, but isn't enough. It's a drag race to the finish.
Culver goes from third to first in the last quarter.
Experience the world's most legendary racing events with iRacing. iRacing special events allow any member to compete in full-length multiplayer races based on some of the biggest events in motorsports all year round. Compete in virtual endurance races such as the 24 Hours of Daytona, Spa 24, and the Nürburgring 24 Hours. Take on some of the toughest races on the NASCAR calendar, such as the Daytona 500 and the Coke 600. We have races from disciplines across the racing world, from the Indy 500 to the Chili Bowl, from the Bathurst 1000 to the Crandon Championship. Our endurance special events utilize iRacing's team feature, where members can sign up and race together on their own team, swapping drivers throughout the race. Other events use iRacing Super Sessions, where you're not only racing against those on track, but against everyone taking part. As every race progresses, watch and feel the track change with progressive time of day, dynamic weather and rain, and dynamic track debris and surface changes. Take on your favorite discipline or try a brand new racing challenge with our biggest races of the year, the iRacing Special Events. Learn more at iracing.com/special-events.
Viewing distant. I don't know how big my monitor. Bezel width? Oh my. Live from iRacing's virtual Bristol Motor Speedway, we say good evening, sim racing fans, and welcome to the 2025 iRacing Bristol 500. We are set for another full-length NASCAR Cup Series special event right here at the Last Great Colosseum, and we're happy that you're joining us for this special presentation of RaceSpot TV on the iRacing Esports Network. With our producer, Ramiro Cisneros downstairs, Derek Watson and myself, Evan Pasoko, had to be on the call for you on this Friday night as we will race late into the evening in about as close to an endurance oval race you will ever see. Derek, we take a look at where we stand on the iRacing special events calendar, and from the NASCAR oval perspective, pretty much wraps up here the last of the full-length NIS races on the calendar.
Yeah, it feels like each event gets a little bit longer, doesn't it? I mean, maybe that break in the middle for the Brickyard, but we went to Daytona 500, then we did the Coke 600 back in May. Now we're here for the Bristol Night Race, one of the most iconic NASCAR events on the calendar, and the calendar doesn't stop, right? Maybe for us in the ovals it does, but we're not too far from the Bathurst 1000, Petit Le Mans, the Martinsville MX 500 is the second year of that coming up. So many more stuff on the calendar. This festival, Suzuka. I mean, it's an incredible season. It finishes with that production car challenge. Evan, although we might be done with the ovals for the year, iRacing has so much more planned for the members.
Yeah, and it's hard to get more iconic than the likes of the Bathurst 1000, which is going to be coming up next here in the month of September. And if you're a fan of oval racing, just because the NASCAR side of the calendar ends does not mean that the oval special events. So you've got the Martinsville MX 500, which I know has quickly become a cult classic amongst a lot of the member base. And you get a little bit later on in the year as well, of course, the Winter Derby and the Chili Bowl in the month of December. So plenty of opportunities to participate in iRacing special events, not only over the course of the rest of the year, but if you're a big fan of Bristol NASCAR racing on the sim, tonight is not your last opportunity. We're happy that you're a part of this broadcast with us tonight and going to be hanging out with us into the evening. But if you do want to participate in either a fixed or open split of this iRacing Bristol 500, you still have plenty of opportunities between now and the end of the weekend. With that being said, the fields have been set, the grids have been determined in our session. Top split tonight, qualifying drawn to a close. So let's take a look at your iRacing starting grid and the number 1 ranked driver in the session, Sean Conklin, going to be starting tonight on pole with a 14.564 in Q, and to be joined alongside by the number 5 ranked driver, that's Joseph Galata, in second. Then it's Riley Halverson the second, starting third tonight alongside Paul Brigoli in fourth. Octavio Rondoletto is fifth, and Jacoby DiCarlo rounds out your top 6.
Moving back into P7, you'll find Dylan Bazin in that 12 car. That black car there is next to Garrett Maines in 8th. Then you'll find Carson Barrett. He's in that 33 car, and he's next to Paul Hill back in P10. That's row 5. And then row 6, John Schwartz with the Bass Pro Shop machine is next to Brad Newman in that multi-tiered blue machine.
It's a good-looking car, and it's going to be just ahead of Pedro Palladino, who will start tonight in 13th position. Charles Wimbley going to be alongside on row number 7 in 14th. Keegan Sabello starts 15th tonight ahead of Lars Chenevith, who will start in the number 16 spot. Vinicius Burr in 17th, and Jacob Klein rounds out row number 9.
Moving back in the P19, that is Jake Phillips, and he's next to Tanner Love in the 21, who's in P20. P21 is Justin Nanke, and then P22 is Zach Range. And the numbers don't stop there, Evan. Number of drivers not taking a time. Craig Johnson, Derek Heitman, Sean Anderson, Hunter Johnson, James Holzer, Matt Cox, Jacob Bauer, Edward Sanchez, Nathan Biggert, Trevor Bazer, Brandon Hunt, Luis Bazina, and Andrew Dyson round out that 35-car field.
Yeah, so almost a third, and in fact a little bit more than a third of the field deciding not to take a time. In qualifying, they get those grid positions 23rd through 35th based on their rank in this race, which as always for the iRacing special events is a rank based on iRating. So 35 cars ready to go. I would say that that's probably an above average number of cars not taking a time in Q, Derek. However, we did say this is probably about as close to an enduro event you'll get on the NASCAR calendar, so we should not be all that surprised. Let's give you the tail of the tape as the cars roll off of pit road. It is pretty cut and dry. 500 laps around one of the most grueling and demanding tracks on the NASCAR calendar. That's it. That's all that stands between you and being a Bristol night race winner.
Yeah, a long night ahead, no matter how you cut it. I mean, very fast, very grueling, very mentally exhausting, possibly very physically exhausting are the challenges you're going to face here at Bristol. So we're finishing our first pace lap. So you look down from Barney to Flagman, and well, here you go for Sean Conklin and Joseph Galata. They're just hoping that all the damage happens behind them and they can stay up front all night long.
And of course, it's a great night for some split screen action. If you're watching NASCAR Xfinity Series, their playoff racing at Bristol. If you're watching us as well here with Race Spot TV on the iRacing Esports Network, it's a good racing night. And we're happy that you've made us a part of it. And get ready for a long night of action. We'll see. We start with 35 hopefuls, only one going to get the Sword Trophy when this thing is said and done. Pace car going to dive down to pit road. And the number 1 is Sean Conklin, going to be in control of the field. Let's go night racing at Bristol. The number 5, Joseph Galata, took to the green flag earlier than the pole sitter on the outside. You saw the message flash up, black flag to the 5, Joseph Galata, jumping the start, and that is going to force your second fastest qualifier to pit road in the next 3 laps to serve a penalty. He drops to third. Battle for the race lead is on. Here comes Riley Halverson on the inside of Conklin, trying to get clear for the race lead.
Well, this battle right here is hot, and it happens, and he's done with the pass for the moment. But that black flag is going to put him at least, what, you think 3 laps down under green here. And holding caution is out, so that may save that comment I just had about how far many laps down you go serving that black flag for jumping the start. But, well, didn't take long to get your first caution, but lots of headlines in those first few laps.
Yeah, and I think the timing of this not going to be ideal for Galata. If it can get served under the caution, not going to be that bad, but he had not yet hit pit road and there was an accident involving Colby DiCario, who had started inside of the top 10 in this race. The number 24 ranked driver. So again, out-qualified what his seed would be, but of course anybody who makes it into top split going to be a contender to fight for the race wins. And we'll wait to get a second look at what happened with the number 24, but it was a car that was up front, and again, a obviously car that had some speed and a potential to win this race. And I think it happened pretty close to where Galata was on pit lane. Let's watch. Big bobble off of 2. There's front end damage on the 6 car immediately. And then, the 25 also a late hit. So Zach Range in the 25 and Paul Hill in the 6 also going to be getting some damage in this accident. It looked like the 24 just lost it on his own.
Yeah, I'm going to watch the replay here and see. Yeah, he just snapped it up the track, and that's a little odd, honestly. Typically, I feel like at Bristol, when you see drivers kind of lose the car and snap it around, typically you snap it to the inside and you head towards those inside walls in the straight. So I'm a little surprised to see him move that direction, but caution pretty early. And you're right, it's going to be harmful if Galata wasn't able to get down on pit road and get that black flag served. That'd be ideal for him if he could make that happen.
And you can see the flames out of the pipes. So once that thing got sideways, he was trying to get out of the gas and to hang on to it, but it is going to be trouble early, and a lot of drivers down pit road for repairs. No shock that the drivers down and in are the ones with damage in that. I mentioned Hill, I mentioned Range, Vinicius Burren down pit road, Brad Newman, Sean Anderson also, and Joseph Galata also down to the pit lane. This is the car who was slated to start this race on the outside of the front row, clearly beat the pole sitter to the start-finish line, and the sim determined that that would be a penalty to that car. Galata was about to come to pit road to serve the penalty when the caution flag came out. Derek, I believe that penalty needs to be served under green flag conditions because that car has been on and off of pit road. I am still showing a penalty. Maybe the retribution is going to be an EOL. If that's the case, that is certainly better than the point that you were going to make right before the yellow happened, which was serving any sort of pit lane penalty under green would have put you several laps down as we get set for a restart.
Yeah, they're not going to change it. iRacing will not, so he has to be on pit road before that caution comes out. So if he wasn't there, then he's going to have to serve it again when we get back green flag racing. And here we go. We're back green at Bristol.
That start much cleaner, and it's a good start for your new race leader, Riley Halverson Jr., who used the inside to get around Conklin only 3 laps into this race. So it's clear for the lead for Halverson. Conklin single file in second, side by side for third. It's Dylan Basin on the outside and Octavio Rondoletto on the inside.
Now, off screen, we'll confirm really quick. Galata has now gotten down to pit road, so he'll serve that penalty now and go laps down. But side by side, the 4 and the 12 are fighting hard here, and there is the pass. Now, what's going to be interesting about this track all night long, Evan, I had a chance to do this race on Wednesday, and there's not a dominant lane this year. It's about momentum. It's about confidence. It's about comfort. But I saw passes happening both in the top and the bottom lanes at Bristol when I ran this open race on Wednesday nights.
And you saw the big twitch out of the number 12 for Dylan Basin, cost him 2 spots. Not only did he lose the battle with Rondoletto for third, but he also saw Garrett Maines get by him. Maines is a staple in these special events and always a threat to go to victory lane here in a NASCAR Cup car and really anywhere. And we're talking oval racing on the service. So your top, we'll call it 10 plus cars now, single filing things out. We did mention Galata was able to get onto the pit lane for service. The cost of that is going to be 2 laps. So Joseph Galata is 2 laps down, but the penalty is served, and now he's going to have to hope for a couple of caution flags to get back onto the lead lap as Garrett Maines moves up into third, using the outside line that time to get around Rondoletto.
Right now, you're right, single file. Everybody seems to kind of just want to be calm, get your feet under you, kind of get some laps in, learn how this track's going to behave with the current weather conditions, and be aggressive later, right? Here we are on lap 15. There's no point in pushing that hard yet. We're looking down here at Octavio. Octavio, by the way, one of 3 drivers tonight who has use of that real-life spotter feature. Not that many drivers took advantage of it tonight. I noticed Octavio had a friend with him. He has Ramiro S. Rodriguez spotting for him.
Well, you mentioned some of the names are familiar at this level of racing, and it also means that we have plenty of drivers representing all corners of the world in this event. Obviously, the American contingent, the dominant one, but a handful of Brazilians, a couple of an Argentinian in the field, some Australians, a Colombian, so quite the international representation in this race, which is always one of the best parts of the iRacing special events calendar, because 9 p.m. Eastern time, Friday night, great time slot for those in North America. Maybe not such the case if you're abroad. So a lot of drivers working this race into their weekend plans to be able to be here and compete with us. Credit to Rondeletto not giving up in this race, trying to stay pretty close to Garrett Maines. That battle for third and fourth position still pretty tight as they continue at pace, but surprised how many positions have shuffled up early and trouble behind the leaders. Caution flag number 2 on the afternoon flies.
Galata is going to be involved, so the driver who was 2 laps down and not eligible for a lucky dog if for another reason, then he is going to be involved in this wreck pretty big. So wait for that replay to load up here, and we'll see what happened to the 5 of Joseph Galata. Boy, he went from really the top floor, the penthouse, if you will, to really falling many floors down this race pretty quickly.
Yeah, and you always wonder, when somebody's stuck down a lap like that, they've got a competitive race car, did they get themselves into trouble? I do not think that was the case. I think he's an innocent victim in all of this. Looking at the number 17 machine, there is the 16, and I think the answers will lie with James Holzer in the 16. That is where this all starts. And it looks like not only did he get into Galata, you saw the 5 sideways on the track, but then he also clearly got into the 17 to Matt Cox. Let's watch the 16.
Ooh, he got bumped, and that's good old classic Bristol, and maybe not the wreck, right? But that bump that sort of wiggled the car, that's the old NASCAR bump and run. Now, in this case, it's not really correct because it doesn't work, but that's how you make it happen. Typically into a corner, you'll want someone to wiggle like that, but in this case, it led to calamity in our second caution here on lap 22. Well, good news, Evan. We're already about 5% of the way through this race, so
perfect. 2
cautions, 22 laps. We're slowly making progress. So here's the question we talked about earlier. I think it's okay to say this in the broadcast. We talked earlier, we had our own private over-unders, our thoughts and our what you have you. So right now we've had, 2 leaders and 2 cautions. What do you think happens more tonight, number of leaders or number of cautions?
I would bet the house on cautions over different race leaders. That confident. Now, my other predictions on, I said I took the under on 15 cautions. I said the number would be 13. I think I also said there would be less cars left on the lead lap than the number of cautions. Those ones are a little bit more controversial and not really confident. Maybe toss it into a parlay. But number of cautions versus number of different race leaders, I would bet the house on the cautions. And I don't want to do the math now. These races will have the ebbs and flows, right? You're going to have the cautions early. If we get one late, we're certainly going to have a bunch of restarts late. But 2 cautions, 20 laps in, that would make 50. And I don't think that trajectory is going to continue for the entirety.
Yeah, I hope not. Right? You talked about this being an endurance race. And if that does happen, then it's going to be a real endurance race if we get to 50 cautions. That'd be a lot. So hopefully it slows down here. Pace car lights are off. We're going to go green this time, and we'll see if Conklin can get back to the lead, if Garrett Maines can take it, or someone new appears at the top of the board here.
We'll see as we get set for the restart. So Halverson has settled into control of this race. It'll be starting on the front row once more. Now Sean Conklin still second spot. Garrett Maines, though, started 8th in this race. P3 is going to be the highest position we have seen that car restart in tonight. Green flag flies back underway. It's another clean getaway for Halverson. Battle for second is on. We've seen passes made from both the inside and the outside, so where does the advantage lie? Conklin on the bottom. Maines going to rip the outside, and he will move through now. So in the end, it is going to be Conklin holding off the battle for second. The outside, the better spot to be, at least that time around.
That's a great restart for the driver up in the lead. I mean, that's just an incredible move for Halverson here. He's got about a quarter second to a half second jump already on this field, and now we'll see if Conklin, Maines, Octavio, Dylan Bass, and others can get this in line and kind of get it worked out. But I'm impressed by that jump. Now, the problem with a good jump here at Bristol is it's not that long of a lap. So if he keeps dominating like that right there, maybe 10 laps or so, he'll already find lap traffic.
And that's why I went with the low number of cars finishing on the lead lap in this thing. You're averaging lap times in the 15-second ballpark all night long. So when you line them up nearly 15, 16 rows deep, you're going to have cars that are starting on a restart already a half a lap behind. And that may be where the most troublesome moments in the race will come from the leaders, is when they have to start dealing with consistent lap traffic. We are not at that point yet, but that time will come. And when we get to that point, that is when things are really going to get interesting. You see this group kind of 4 or 5 cars pretty close together. Watching the number 12 there, Dylan Basson just ahead of Paul Bergoli. He's chasing down Rondoletto and Maines in a battle for 3rd and 4th as you go on board with the car in P5.
This is a great view, right? This is, roughly what a driver sees in iRacing. Maybe depending upon their field of view, a little closer, maybe a little different angle, but it shows you really just how tight this is. This would be a single monitor view, and one of the biggest challenges of Bristol, watch this, Evan, we're going to come up here through the straight, come down here into turn number 1. If there was a wreck right there in turn number 2, or out of turn number 2, I should say, you have no idea as a driver. Once again, in turn 3, if there's a wreck in 4, you're just going to have to rely on that voice chat from the driver's radio. And speaking of cautions, I brought one out. Don't talk about it.
Right on cue. Caution flag number 3 flies, trying to locate the driver involved. I first thought maybe Hunter C. Johnson. That car was slow on the apron, but it was not Johnson. Maybe Zach Range is going to be the culprit in this one, behind the wheel of the number 25 machine. We'll see if he might have been the car involved. Whatever happened did not create a big mess, because I don't see any smoke piled up anywhere. I don't see a ton of race cars limping around the racetrack. So whatever happened was quick and was maybe relatively minor compared to most of the accidents we've seen so far.
The James Holzer got an end-of-line penalty that I'm going to guess is due to a pit road entrance problem. We'll see if we can figure out maybe later what happened to him. But look at this. There's the 2 car coming down pit road. Oh, nope, I got faked out.
Let's see, did we spot it? Taking a look at the replay, that's the number 20 machine on the outside. And oh yeah, trouble off of the corner, a spin down to the inside. And again, for John Schwartz, could have been a lot worse by Bristol standards. He and the car he got into certainly going to have some damage. And in fact, Schwartz is down pit road now to get the left side damage on that Chevrolet ZL1 repaired. But by Bristol standards, to be able to bounce off the fence, get into another car, and not end up in the inside wall. That apron's not wide. I think that could have been a lot worse for the driver of the 20. Obviously, it's a car who started up near the top 10, so this is going to be a huge setback in this race. But again, for Bristol standards, if I had to pick one, maybe I'd take that one.
Yeah, I would too. And by the way, that comes back to that talk I had earlier with you about the typical getting loose at Bristol in the car, kind of slamming to the inside. That's what typically happens when you get loose. You snap out of the corners of Bristol, and the car just sort of aims for the inside wall. Quote unquote, luckily for him, there was a car to kind of stop him from hitting the wall. So that's maybe why he didn't end up there. But that's typically what happens at Bristol. That car wants to snap to the inside. That banking change just kind of messes with your car a little bit, and you'll find yourself pointed in that direction pretty quickly. Well, right now, here we are, lap 37, and I think probably as a driver, Evan, what comes to my mind is this has got to be a little frustrating, because we're not full caution. We're having some small runs. We're showing we can do it, but every time you just about get the rhythm, the caution comes out. And so as a driver, you've got to be grateful we're not full of cautions, but boy, you'd love it if we could just climb that, get over that little peak right there and get into a good long green flag run.
Yeah, and it's worth noting, I think most of these wrecks have started as single-car incidents, so it is the drivers versus Bristol in the opening 50 laps of this Bristol 500 as we are back underway, and Halverson continues to be money on the restarts. Garrett Maines, though, this time, trying to make the move for second. He has got it. Unsuccessful on the last restart attempt, made it work on the bottom. He's up to the number 2 spot. How long does it last, though? Conklin aggressive on the bottom, and Rondoletto still not willing to go up. The 4 car sideways that time on the outside.
Well, the 4 car was sideways. The 1 car started to kind of come up that hill a little bit, and I thought for sure contact was coming. They somehow worked it out. No contact, and that 4 car's up there all alone trying to make it work. Now he's got a little bit of help. Now everybody moves up there. And boy, this feels a little bit like a super speedway, doesn't it? People can't decide what lane they want to be in. You're back and forth and back and forth. Typically more of a Daytona thing than less of a Bristol thing.
Yeah, and one thing I think that they'll have in similar is that, yes, these two tracks, if you compare Bristol to Daytona, could not be any more different in size and in scale. But under race conditions, the one thing that's true between the both of them is that decisions have to happen so fast. If it's picking a lane, if it's deciding when to make a move and when not to make a move, if it comes to wreck avoidance, you almost can't think about it. You just have to do. There's a nice slow-mo look at that 4 getting a little bit loose, catching a piece of the wall on the runoff at turn number 2. It did not hurt Rondeletto too much in the end. In fact, he's able to tuck in line directly behind Conklin and defend the number 4 spot. Now, he's going to have Dylan Basson up on the rear end. The number 12 going to be challenging. We haven't talked much about Basson, but he picked up a spot from Brigoli on one of the last 2 restarts. So P5 is the highest we have seen that number 12 car so far.
I'm just watching this battle, and I'm watching how this little conglomerate, this gaggle, this bunch of cars, whatever word you want to use, is really coming together. It's Garrett Maines around, and he saved that car, no caution, but look at him. He's now down the track, falling down the leaderboard. He's now down to, P17, P18, quickly from the top 3 for Garrett Maines.
And that's going to be one of the more impressive saves that you are ever going to see here at Bristol Motor Speedway. It cost him a ton. Do not get me wrong. But check this out. As you take a look at the live on board with Love, he's way back at the number 11 spot challenging. You got to look another full straightaway back till you find Maines. He's all the way back in P19. So yes, huge deficit for Maines, and he is going to have to work extremely hard over the next 450 laps if he wants to be back in contention to win this thing. But that car was destined for a one-way trip to the inside wall, and he locked it up on the brakes, caught that thing. It was a good piece of driving to be stay green.
And listen, Garrett's one of the best to do this. Obviously he's driven at the pro level, compete at that level, but right now what he's probably going to deal with more so than maybe a little bit of tires that are angry due to that spin, he's got to deal with a little bit of that mental frustration, right? You kind of beat yourself up. How did I do that? What happened? What did I do wrong? Hold on, come back to that. There's the 4 car. He just sandwiched the 12 up in the wall. Some more loose race cars happening here at Bristol.
Yeah, these things are all over the place, and it is only going to get worse as this long early run continues to wear. Yes, there's been a lot of yellows. It's had a stop-start nature to the opening now 50 laps complete here at Bristol. However, these tires are going to get worse and worse and worse. We've seen some pit stops. Edward Sanchez, the first car who has really pitted in this race, is on 15-lap-old tires, back in the number 15 spot, slowly working his way through the field. But everybody else towards the front, including these 2 cars in a battle for P5 and 6, on 51-lap-old and continuously aging tires, as there is the trouble there with the 4 machine. So continuing issues with Rondeletto. That's how the 12 of Basson got on him, and the 12, now able to complete the pass, moves up into the number 5 spot. Rondeletto P6 now. I think the lowest we've seen him tonight.
By the way, that blue and black car right there, the 27 of Pedro Palladino, props to him. He saw that issue happening that we saw the replay of, and he just got to the bottom of the track and went under it and kind of hoped and prayed it was going to stay up there, and it did. So he benefited pretty big. He'll now be up in P4. But I was going to say, and I guess now we can add the other cars to it. When this moment happens in this race, Evan, as a driver, it frustrates you because you're like, why did that car snap loose? I've done practice laps. I've run the same lap every time. You're trying to rationalize in your head why the car does this. And one thing that stuck out to me so far, this is a pretty cool racetrack as far as track temperature goes. Only 88 degrees track temp. This is not one of our hotter racetracks that you and I have called together, so I'm a little surprised to see how slick the surface is.
Yeah, it's deceptive too, right? In a night race, also, you expect those temperatures to be a little bit lower, exactly like we're seeing. The Bristol night race, though, and you could ask fans who have been watching for a long time. They'll have some very strong opinions on pre-repave versus post-repave and just how important handling is. But this Bristol Motor Speedway is no longer the track that was right on the bottom. You do need a car that can handle well. And again, we have seen drivers able to make passes successfully both on the inside and on the outside of the racetrack. On board there with Palladino, the driver he is hunting down is Paul Brigoli, who through all of our discussions of all the battles in the top 5, top 10, maybe hasn't gotten mentioned much, if at all, Derek. He is now the car scored in the number 3 spot, so quiet so far, but successful for the 15, and sometimes in a crazy race at Bristol, quiet is exactly what the doctor ordered.
Yeah, and I've seen Paul race a bunch across the years. Paul loves this next-gen car. I've seen him race it in different leagues, different events across iRacing, so I'm not surprised to see Paul up here running up at the top with that black and purple scheme. That purple, if I recall, it's a pretty common scheme you'll find with most of Paul's paints. Now we'll come back here to the 10 car. That's Keegan Sobillo. This is P9 on back with that black and yellow car. And he's got attack from the 23. That's Edward Sanchez. Eddie, still part of the college iRacing series, and you and I were talking about that pre-show about how that's going to start up soon. Eddie is a pretty accomplished super speedway driver up here in top split time for Bristol and doing pretty good up in the top 10.
Yeah, having a great showing. So a lot of drivers having a good night, and somebody else who's had a great night, Derek Heitman. You look at this battle just outside of the top 10. Fourth position, the number 13 of Charles Wembley, trying desperately to hang on to the number 11 spot, but Heitman is up 12 positions, makes him one of the biggest movers in the field. He's trying to right now make the work on the inside line of the racetrack, not always the easiest place to do so, and when you look closer up to the front, that battle between Brigoli and Palladino comes to a close. Caution, though, at lap number 65, and a whole bunch of cars stacked up right by the pace car in turns 1 and 2.
Wow, here it is, and this car's pretty quickly coming down pit road. That I can't imagine pit road was already open, so I'm kind of confused.
Yeah, it opened quick.
Figure that out. It must
all the leaders are down, so
that was darn quick. Actually,
yeah.
That's the case. I was like, "Well, the caution just came out." I was getting nervous for their black flag penalties, but no, they got it worked out. So good for them. So
well, I think that's the design of the split pit road here, right? It doesn't matter what pit lane you're pitting on. What this session is doing is the combined pit road. So the combined pit road, I believe, opens in turn number 2. And the pace car leaves pit road in turn 1, so that's why it opens so quick.
Right, yeah.
And that's probably why those cars wanted to get into position so quickly. Big mistake on pit road, by the way, for the number 4 car of Octavio Rondoletto. So things were already falling apart for him. He missed his stall coming into pit road. That's going to cost him a handful of positions. And I think the actual race off of pit lane looks like it goes in favor of maybe Sean Conklin. We'll have to wait till they all cycle back out.
Yeah, we'll wait and see how it cycles out here. That 27 is hanging low. There must be some kind of penalty he served either for speeding or something because he's falling back through the field. So that 27 is going to drop down through the field here. But right now up top here, so your first two, Sobillo and Heitman, that is the 2 cars here, the 10 and the 7, they have not pitted. They have decided to value track position more than tires. And I'll be honest with you, Evan, I like it. I really do. I think this is a good call. Some of those drivers who just pitted, who are going to find themselves back in the ruckus a little bit, back in the muck, back in whatever phrasing you want to use, they're going to be kind of frustrated, I bet, in 5, 10, 15, 20 laps when they realize it's not as fun in the middle of the pack at Bristol as it is up front.
That is going to be the big challenge, and Colby DiCario had stayed out to assume the number 1 position. That car with the black flag obviously needed to come down pit lane to serve it, so I think it will be Keegan Sobillo who is going to be the control car for the restart. Both Keegan and Derek Heitman, first and second position, have not pitted at all tonight, so they are on 68-lap-old tires. Bit of a mixed bag, though, for the cars scored in the number 3 spot. Paul Hill pitted 34 laps ago, so somewhere in all of the caution to flag cycles earlier, he did come down for service, and it looks like it was a 2-tire decision. So you've got no tires up front, you've got 30-lap-old 2 tires in the number 3 spot, and of course it is going to be 4 tires and fuel for everybody P4 on back. So that's a pretty good sample size for these drivers to take note of over the course of this next run, as we have to wait one more time around before the green.
Yeah, let's wait and see this replay. What's going to happen here with the caution? That red and yellow car just comes up, gets into the 22 of Bryn. The 22 goes around, and overall, all things considered, oh boy, I almost said not the worst wreck we've seen, and then it almost got really hairy from behind with that white car.
True Bristol fashion is even when the first wreck is done, you were talking about how hard it is to see around the corner. When we've had some of the onboard perspectives, you're not really safe until that car starts rolling to back off again after an incident. So 430 laps still to go, and it's our first bit of strategy in this race. Green flag flies, no issues for Keegan Sabillo to get off it on the throttle. Clear for the race lead. Heitman quick to dive down for second, but all eyes are on Sean Conklin in the blue #1. First car on 4 fresh tires, makes quick work of Heitman, and now sets his sights on the top 2.
Oh, caution's out again. There was a lapped car that was trying to get out of the way there. That was not for the battle, but caution is quickly out again. So Conklin quickly made his way around. He'll now start to the outside of our leader on this next one. And I guess you can think Sean Anderson, that black and blue car right there, the 27, likely involved here, given the fact we just saw the notice on the screen of the required repairs. So I'm guessing if we just back up the old VHS tape or the old, whatever, on what you guys used in those old days, the reels.
What say you guys? What's trying to include me in the group?
Hey, you're a production nerd. I just assumed you knew some of the old terms.
Beta tapes and stuff.
Beta tapes, yeah. So I'm assuming if we rewind the DVR, we'll see
there you go.
27's likely involved somewhere.
And I'm seeing damage also, by the way, on the 4 and on the 23. So now the question comes for the 27, is he early in this or is he late? Here's a view of the 23 and the 4. Man, that thing went around quick. So the 23 and the 4, they're wrecking off of the corner, and we're right there in the back, that blue 27, that's where the big hit comes from. So this thing centered around the 23 of Edward Sanchez getting loose, and then the poor 4 of Octavio Rondoletto went from a top 5 car to being in 2 straight accidents and mired back in the low 20s.
Boy, and he backed up across the track there, and I got nervous it was going to be a third wreck in that replay, but he got that saved up here. And you're right. I mean, just how quick you can go, the old phrasing from the penthouse to the outhouse, so quickly at Bristol. So let's see what he can do here. I mean, watch this again here. This is Edward Sanchez in that green car up ahead. He just got loose. Nothing he could do about it. 4 car got involved and just broke us in. I mean, he said Sanchez really kind of barely minor got involved. He drove away, and then all the calamity happened behind him.
Yeah, Lars Cheneth must have had some sort of a crazy perspective on the accident, because he typed in the driver chat, Garmin save video. So some sort of a dash cam reference there. So he must have had a heck of a view, but that car's still doing well for Lars Chenoweth. Scored in the number 6 position still in the number 9 car. So good for him to still be in position to be a competitive race car in this thing. As Keegan Sabillo was able to fire off really good. I mean, there was really no tire spin at all on that car out of the gate, but the way Sean Conklin cut through the 3rd and then 2nd placed cars like a hot knife through butter is going to tell me that this is not going to be that much of a fight in the number 1 position. Is you see Barney the flagman holding the flag straight in the air, indicating 1 lap to go before we get back under green flag conditions. Edward Sanchez, by the way, apologizing for the accident, one of the drivers involved in it. And now we'll see just how long does it take for the 1 car at Conklin to go to the race lead. If Sabillo clears, the 1 may have an option. Does he want to go high or low? We'll see if the 1 can just stay up on the outside. Green flag flies. We're back underway. It is a good restart for Sabillo, but Conklin's better tire is going to kick in right here. The runoff at turn number 2. Big advantage. Diving down to the inside in 3 and 4. And in the blink of an eye, the man who started this race on pole goes back to the race lead for the first time since lap number 2.
Yeah, easy domination by Sean Conklin there with those new tires. He quickly got around and got the pass made. What I'm wondering about is down through the field, right? How many drivers are able to do that same thing when you're also trying to fight each other in traffic? Right now, I mean, Sabilla's doing a great job holding P2. Heitman's holding on to P7. So I'm curious what Paul Bergoli and others can do here. as this race goes on. Look back through the field, by the way, up top. That's back in P21. That's, a wreck up top that got saved in the car 21, pardon me. And he kept up on the wall and no caution, but big hit for the 21.
Yeah, so tough moment there for Tanner Love.
Hold on.
He's going to put him all the way to the back of the lead lap. And now Paul Bragoli with some big issues. The number 15 machine was just in second spot. Now he's all the way down to the number 14 position. So there was a major issue with Paul Bragoli's machine. This race stays green, but I see some pretty substantial right rear damage on that car. So let's take a look. What happened to Bragoli? Running P2, making a pass for second on the outside line of the racetrack. And wow, that rear end went around quick. He did have some help there with the second car in line, but the way that thing got sideways so quick, I don't know if he would have caught it anyways.
The help, I think, helped, actually. I think the help maybe made it not be worse. The help sort of kind of straightened him out and got him back forward on the track. But, I mean, that was maybe worse than what we saw from Edward Sanchez and getting loose. Just luckily for Bergoli, no one was there to kind of hit him from behind and make it worse. But we'll stay green. But, boy, in this run right now, we've seen two very close
Bergoli's
calls.
In the wall again. I just saw his name drop way down on the leaderboard again. So something happened with Paul Bragoli again. You mentioned from the penthouse to the outhouse, Paul Bragoli's night is done just like that. We saw the first incident that happened to him. What happened again? 3 wide gone wrong. He gets put into the outside wall. By that point, yeah, he dropped down to 30th. Toes gone on that machine, and he made the decision. Night is over. That is no exaggeration. How quickly your night can turn sour here at a place like Bristol.
That's tough. I mean, that's frustrating to see as a driver, as a commentator, to see that much happen. And, you know, with those incident point limits, he probably was racking them up pretty quickly. And I think he broke the toe or something in that car. That car was wobbling. And speaking of wobbling on cue, that's the 33. That was maybe our biggest visual wobble we've seen on the track so far that did not lead to a car turned around.
It has been a wild ride so far here at Bristol as we close in on the lap number 100 marker in this 500-lap marathon. Still 23 of the 35 cars who started this race scored on the lead lap, but again, that is a number that quickly begins to dwindle. Somebody else has been quiet tonight. How about the 33 machine to Carson Barrett there, losing a spot to Dylan Basin. The battle for 6th and 7th continues to go on. In fact, they're all chasing Cibillo, but at 33 had a big moment and allowed the rest of those cars to catch up to him. Minus that, it's been pretty good for him. Caution, though, flies again. It's more trouble somewhere on the back straightaway, and the slow car is James Holzer in the 16.
Wait and see what happened with James Holzer, but this will maybe be, I think now with Cibillo and with Heitman falling down the field, I just want to point out real quick, I think this will be the time when they probably will finally pit and put new tires on now that they've seen the power of new tires here at Bristol. But wait for a second and see what happened to the 16 and what may have brought out this yellow. You see, there's a car down pit road. That's going to be, that was our former, well, there's a bunch of cars in there. Our former leaders down there.
Yeah, Heitman, cars. Hill, Cibillo, some bit of a mixed bag for some top 10 cars.
And at Bristol, by the way, we should point out, the thing about pitting all night is going to be tires. Let's go back to that a second. Here's the 16 Holzer in that red and yellow car. He again just got loose. And again, Evan, I got to say, I am just stunned with how many cars are getting loose. A very cool track. It's not impossible to get loose on a racetrack, but the way we're racing, you would think track temps like, 100, 110 or so, with the way these cars are going around.
And it's another incident where, again, somebody gets a little sideways on their own. I think Holzer in that case got a little bit of the apron. So I think that's kind of what kicked it off for the 16. But, I mean, you're right. These incidents have been driver versus track over and over. And the challenge that is Bristol Motor Speedway continues to stand the test of time.
Yeah, right now the track's winning, so to speak, against these battles. The track is really there. And I think it was just a matter, you're right, if he didn't touch the apron, he was definitely down in that bottom lane of the track, and just that hard turn radius maybe just got a hold of him here. But there's the 10 car. We saw him come down and get tires. So if we look at the leaderboard now, It's basically P13 on back. A lot of drivers came in that time, and you have a lot of tires available to you, Evan. I believe it's 13 sets of tires for this race. And I was going to mention quickly, when it comes to this tonight, fuel will not be the problem. Don't get me wrong, you'll need fuel at some point in this race, but typically you'll run out of tires well before you run out of fuel.
Yeah, and one thing that is pretty clear also is there is no clearly defined strategy. We just had a bunch of cars who pitted with what we'll call the popular decision, right? When first time we saw all the leaders come down to the pit lane, we just saw maybe half or a third of them splinter off and to come down pit roads. You've got a bunch of fast race cars, Halverson, Sabillo, Hill, Heitman. They're all going to be restarting 4 fresh tires again from 13th position on back. And you've got another contingent of fast cars, Conklin, who's led 19 laps, Maines, Basson, Chenoweth, and others who did not decide to come down to the pit lane. They will stay out and control the field. So we have just taken really the core group of cars, split them in half, and that is going to make this race that much more interesting, is trying to track those different strategy calls as they have an opportunity to play out. The lights are on the pace car, so it's going to dive to the safety of the pit lane this time. Garrett Maines back on the front row. Can the two get another crack at the race lead? He's going to have to get through Sean Conklin, who gets up and away, but the two is right there side by side for the race lead.
That's one of the best restarts we've seen all night from the outside car, and no surprise, it comes from Garrett Maines. They'll be side by side into turns 3 and 4. The one will get a slight advantage, but Garrett Maines will get the run off the corners. He wiggled it pretty hard. He saves the car, and they're again side by side in 1 and 2.
What a battle between two of the very best. In fact, the cars ranked number 1 and 2 in this race are going head-to-head in a battle for the lead here at Bristol. What more could you ask for from an iRacing special event? Neither lane, neither driver willing to give an inch so far. Dylan Bassett continuing to watch on from third as maybe the two cars starting to get an advantage on the outside.
Boy, if I'm either one of these cars, I have to think about ending this battle right now, because watch what's happening behind them with Bazin, with Chenoweth, with Justin Nanke and others. As these guys continue to fight side by side, they're going to invite more cars to kind of tuck up in behind them eventually. And this battle will get closer and closer. And what now is a 2-car battle could quickly become like a 5-car battle if they're not careful. Here's a look back on your bottom right of your screen from that car in P3. And he's got to think, Evan, I'm in the catbird seat, right? If something happens with the 1 and the 2 and they make contact, I'm the likely heir successor to the lead.
And in the end, the outside is the advantage. I slowly started to see Maines getting, call it 3 feet in front on the run off the corner, then 6, then 9, and so on and so forth. And eventually he was able to clear, but that is far from the only battle going on. So as Conklin drops back to second, he's going to have a rear view mirror full of Dylan Basson. And on the bottom, a side-by-side battle going on in the fight for the number 8 position. And a change for position there. The number 14, Hunter Johnson, leads the way with Nathan Biggert and Riley Halverson side-by-side.
So far, Garrett Maines up here in front and doing a pretty solid job. Not really growing a gap like we've seen from other leaders, but just comfortable up there. Just kind of sticking around the 1 and 1. I noticed from the 1 car, Evan, watch this again. He is aware of the dirty air that happens here. Not something we talk about a whole lot, but watch the 1. He is constantly just slightly off kilter from Garrett Maines. That's not because he thinks Garrett Maines is doing it wrong. That's because he wants to see if he can just find some clean air and some better aerodynamics, some better grip. And you see there, Dylan Bazin doesn't have that choice. He's got 2 cars up ahead, but lap by lap, that 1 car is just digging around as much as he can.
He is obviously super experienced, and here's the onboard perspective from Bazin. It gives you a good look at where that 1 of Conklin is, right? If you're directly in line behind the car in front of you, you're not going to be getting the maximum amount of clean air to the nose of the car. You're seeing the same thing in all of these battles. You saw it with Nanke trying to get to the inside of Chenoweth in a battle for 4th and 5th. You see it here as the number 18 O'Reilly Halverson the second makes a move on Brenson Hutt, and they will change positions 6 and 7. This is not a wide racetrack, so you really have to pick your lane. And a big moment there as Brenson just lost a spot, almost lost the whole car there. And now that bobble invites Keegan Sabillo. There goes the number 10 car to the outside and through.
By the way, Sabillo is, I believe, the 2nd car in line regarding those who pitted last time. Riley Halverson is up in P6. just ahead of Sabilo. So these cars that just pitted are coming through the field fast. They're already up now P6, P7, trying to run down Nanke and Chenoweth and others here. So it appears like tires is the correct answer all night long.
And they have been able to cut through the field pretty efficiently. I think they restarted in 13th or so, and the first car on the fresh tires, to your point, Halverson, all the way up to the number 5 spot. So midfield, maybe a little bit less crazy at lap 111 than it was at lap 11, right? The total number of cars in the race continue to drop. Competitive cars drop even if you're still in the race. Some drivers with damage, unable to keep up. So it does help a little bit as you get on, but again, that mid-pack area is still a dangerous spot to be in. This battle for the lead, though, just will not go away. Maines made the pass on the outside, but Conklin just as good up there as Maines was. Look at the one machine now, trying to use that same line against him, looking to the outside of the leader. Can he get a nose up top? He does. So Sean Conklin going to be the aggressor, and he is going to use the outside to take the race lead right back.
So the question I have in my mind, Evan, right there is, did Conklin take the lead or did Maines sort of let it go? Because it felt like Maines wasn't fully in the throttle. Maybe Maines has decided that this battle isn't worth it, right? Maybe he's decided, hey, listen, I'm going to save some tires here. You go run away and do your thing, and I'll find you later, as this run goes on. So we'll wait and see if that was the case and what's coming there. On and back to the field now. There's a couple different battles happening. That's Lars Chenoweth and that Dr. Pepper. That's the vanilla Dr. Pepper paint scheme, in fact, to be specific with it. He is trying to battle now with that car who pitted a moment ago in Riley Halverson. And these guys have been side by side for 2-3 laps or so.
Plenty of action everywhere you look in the field, and it is mentally taxing for these drivers. Again, we are still early in this marathon of an iRacing special event on the oval calendar. For these drivers to really not have many opportunities to just ride. These battles are always ongoing. It's no surprise that sometimes you're going to see some mistakes, and we've had a handful of those so far tonight. Look at the 18 machine, though. Halverson continuing to work the tire advantage, this time on the inside of the number 9 of Lars Chenoweth. That spot not clear yet. Give credit to the 9 machine, to Chenoweth, doing a good job of holding it off. I do think, well, we've seen passes made on the inside and the outside. I do think the top is the preferred lane here. So that's obviously a decision by Chenoweth to make Halverson work for it harder on the bottom.
Yeah, both lanes, of course, have the advantage. The top lane gives you a better run off the corner. You can get on the gas a little sooner. The bottom lane has the benefit of being the quote-unquote shorter lane around the track, so they really do both have their perks here. And now you see that Halverson did get around finally. He did make it work on his new tires. He's cleared that Dr. Pepper machine. I'm going to come back to what you said, because you're so right. This event is taxing. It's difficult. It's exhausting. That might be the best word, is exhausting, because it might look simple. Maybe you have a family member in this race or a friend, and you've not done this. You've not done iRacing before. But, I mean, look at how fast these corners come up on you. It's only about, 4 or 5 seconds on this straightaway, and you're already having to turn again, get off the gas, maybe tap the brake to rotate the car, get the wheel turned around, get back on the gas, and do it again. And you're doing that, well, basically 1,000 times. 500 laps, a front straight and a back straight times 2, so that's 1,000 times. Listen, if you want to get a drink of water under green, good luck with that. If you want to have a Discord conversation, good luck with that. This is a tough track because of how difficult and how busy it always is.
And with Conklin going to the race lead, I thought maybe Maines didn't want to fight it that much, but the fact that Conklin now has almost gotten out to a full second in front of the race leader, I'm going to say the none counts for cars that man's chasing right now, because he is well out in front to the tune of 9/10 of a second. He has pulled away to, I think, what's the biggest advantage for the race lead we have seen at any point in this race. That last move, a pass on lapped car, Pedro Palladino. So we mentioned it, teased it earlier. Lap traffic's going to start to become a factor. We haven't really had green flag runs long enough for the leaders to deal with much of it. So as this battle for second keeps on going, this may be Conklin's first real battle with trying to deal with those lapped cars.
Yeah, and this will be a test for Maines. They both get under Pedro. And Maines got a nice bit of we call it a moving pick in basketball terms right there, is he able to use the lap car a little bit to get this a little bit separation, putting himself in the 12 car, and then 12 cars kind of close that gap pretty quickly here. But I mean, it is worth noting, you're right, we've not gone that long, but it doesn't take that long to catch lap traffic here. Hold on to that thought. There's a 12 digging aside of Garrett Maines, and they're going to be good, but that was darn close through 3 and 4.
It's a close moment there, and who's going to give in this scenario? Remember, when Garrett Maines got passed by Conklin, and caution will fly, so the battle will go on hold. Trouble on the front straightaway. Stopped car on the apron. I think that might have been Brad Newman, or somebody else stopped on the apron.
Well,
25 machine.
Look,
or 28, sorry. Jake Phillips.
Yeah,
we'll get it eventually. There it is. Yeah.
Just call all the numbers. You'll get
right.
You'll find one eventually.
Broken clock is right twice a day.
Twice a day. There you go. Well, you got turned around by that Napa machine. Nothing intentional, I don't believe. It's got in the back quarter panel and looped it on around. And I guess the good news for that 28 looked like he stayed off the wall. I don't think he hit anything.
Yeah, one of the few times tonight where the incident has been car-to-car contact, and I think that was. I didn't notice the 14, hit the bump on exit and push up all of a sudden. I think Hunter Johnson just misjudged the corner, thought he was going to be in line behind Phillips. It was not. Turned the number 28 machine around, and maybe a kiss of damage worth on the number 35. So Jacob Klein might get something out of it. There's Johnson's perspective. Again, I just think that's a misjudgment. He may actually end up with more damage in this than the car he got into, as almost everybody down pit road for service. So this is, again, going to shuffle things up. You have cars who pitted 40 laps ago. They're back down and in regardless, even though they were cutting through the field.
Yeah, everybody's down pit road. And I think what happened is when people saw how powerful Conklin was on new tires with those, 60-some lap tires against Sabillo, then you saw Sabillo in that field with only about, 15 lap newer tires, and they were dominant. And so I think everyone's now realized, oh, hey, tires are useful tonight. So I think now, again, you get 13 sets of tires. We're well ahead of that number of, tires per 100 laps, or whatever you want to use it, to make it good on tire stills. Everyone's going to come down and get tires as much as they can and make themselves competitive.
Yeah, they've learned, right? We said that fourth or fifth caution, but the first time we saw a big group come down pit road, that it was going to be a good litmus test, because you saw what 2 tires did, you saw what none did, you see what 4 did. And now, obviously, you can't do it every 30 laps, as the race goes on and on and on, but it seems like these drivers all want to come down and get fresh tires. So Sean Conklin will maintain his position as the leader, Garrett Maines in second, and then Riley Halverson, who is one of the drivers going through the field with the tire advantage, is now on equal tires with the leaders. So it's going to be a little bit more of a fair fight now throughout. With everybody coming down pit road, you're not going to see a group of 3 or 4 making passes look easy.
No, you're apparently going to see wholesale pit stops all the way through.
So we'll see. Now that we've had, call it 2 or 3 pit cycles, where we had different groups, different strategies, we hit the reset button and ignore the first 134 laps. It's going to be a equal fight and a restart at 366 to go. What a restart for Sean Conklin. He is hot out of the gates. Clear by 4 car lengths to turn number 1. Here comes Dylan Mason. He's through trouble behind, though. Spinner, it's Justin Nanke. He is in front of the field. The 26, Nathan Biggert's involved. And it is finally a caution flag, as that wreck went the entirety of the back straightaway.
Boy, they were 4 wide trying to check up, and I thought for sure it was going to be worse than it ended up being. And luckily, everyone's going to drive away for the most part here. I just heard a comment from one of the driver's chats, quote, "That was awful."
Took a while before it was wrapped up. I mean, that thing started right at the front of the field, but it was not actually a wreck until they got from the center of turns 1 and 2 all the way down to the entry at turn number 3, and it's just Justin Nanke. That car just never went all the way around. He is the car who got loose. He was in the outside wall, and then he was just kind of getting ping-ponged off a bunch of other race cars. The field as a whole, I think, did a really good job of not making it a 10-20 car pileup.
Yeah, they did a great job of being aware and using the driver's radio to communicate and let everyone know where the car was. But yeah, again, I mean, I said out loud, this is going to be bad, and I thought it was. Here's the replay of what's going to happen. Watch here. for Nanke, and you see him get loose around, gets up in the wall, and he gets hit from behind. There is one car right there that look at that black and green machine probably got hit pretty hard. But all things considered, again, I mean, this is the first part of the wreck. The scary part though is when they start checking up here, when the caution comes out and everything behind it.
Yeah, and that's when, you got 4 or 5 cars, everybody's hitting the brakes. That's the right thing to do. You don't want them going through the accident at speed. So that's where I give them the credit, because at that point the caution hadn't yet come out. So most of the time you'll get some drivers who, no caution, I'm staying in the gas. It's good that they get on the brakes, but all of a sudden this racetrack's not that wide. If all the lanes are blocked, you're going to have limited opportunities to go anywhere. Let's see Heitman's perspective from it. That's where it kicks off. And again, big damage for him, but we're still green all the way up until now. So again, that thing stayed green for a long time, and 2-3 cars involved for a Bristol wreck like that could have been a lot worse. I think we've seen that a handful of times tonight. Yes, a lot of these accidents have stemmed from mistakes. They have started with a single car having a problem, but as a whole, I think the field has done a good job of staying pretty much disciplined and not making it worse than it needed to be.
Yeah, congrats to the field on that. Again, you've said all the right things. Discipline is a big word there, and so let's see what happens here. We are not going green. You saw Barney the flagman pick up the green flag, and he has waved that off. We're going to go green next time now here. So let's run down your top 5. It's Conklin, Bazin, Maines, your top 3. Halverson, Chenoweth, your top 5. So these delayed greens, I mean, I always see them as a positive as a driver, Evan. I think depending upon where you are in the field, if you're up front, like, hey, there's one less lap I have to race someone, right? I just get to kind of cruise around. But I think if you're in the back of the field, maybe you take a Brad Newman in 18th, a Paul Hill in 17th, a Justin Nanke in P21. Hey, dude, I need every lap I can get to race these guys. Can we stop delaying the greens?
Yeah, a couple of times tonight, right? This is a short racetrack. We mentioned how quickly you catch lap cars just because of the fact that it's such a small track, and a couple of times tonight we've seen some issues with everybody getting in position to lay the green. Ready to do it this time as we inch closer and closer to the halfway point here in the Bristol night race. Green flag back in the air. Somebody pulls off early, maybe just a lapped car getting out of the way, as now there's trouble in turn number 2. It's the 10 car. Keegan Sabillo into the outside wall from P5. It stays straight. We stay green.
Boy, this action's picking up here in this second 100 laps, isn't it? From lap 100 to lap 141, it's been pure chaos is what's happening. Watch, there's a car come down. Watch Sabillo, though. He's going to come up the hill a little bit. He's going to get it loose, and that wall's going to straighten him out. No one makes contact. Everyone avoids him, and we stay green. Hold on, now the caution comes out.
Second time tonight. I'm going to put you on that one. We did stay green, and now it's a couple of cars stopped. The 30 of Trevor Baxter is one of them, and Brenson Hunt in the number 31 is the other. Those cars were last scored in 8th and 9th position. So those are top 10 cars. Let's see. Big bump by the number 30 car, and then trying to put it 3 wide. And I don't know if either of those needed to happen at lap 143. I'll reserve judgment till we get another look, but there's a long way to go. To me, that seemed like Derek a bump and run. The 30 definitely instigating, going 3 wide. I mean, obviously wanting to make the move. And then once Baxter gets hit, I don't know if that car just bounces off the wall or if he took his frustrations out. If Baxter got his frustrations, I should say, taken out on him by the car that he was running over, being the number 31 to Machina Hunt.
I'm not sure the Hunt ever really fully recovered from that bump, honestly. I think maybe Hunt was still kind of slightly wiggled the whole way through.
I'm a pessimist.
Let's see. I mean, Hunt comes in the corner a little hot with that different speed. The car actually does look pretty stable up in the wall.
I don't know. He doesn't have the white Austin Hill gloves, so I can't really tell what the hands are doing.
There's a good reference for the Xfinity race going on right now.
It's a bang-bang play, but to me, that looks like 2 drivers that were intentionally hitting each other. And listen, there's going to be frustrations, right? If I'm getting bumped and knocked out of the way and put 3 wide and put in the fence with 350 laps to go, I'd be mad too. So I can see that is Bristol racing, if you will, whatever your take on it is.
Yeah, I mean, at a certain point, you do have to stand up for yourself. You do have to say, hey, man, you're not going to bully me, but you need to do it in a way that, doesn't bring out the yellow and doesn't wreck your race car at the same time. So maybe right idea, but wrong execution would be my summary there. Again, yeah, as a race car driver, you do have to kind of stand up for yourself. You can't let the field think you're just going to get bullied. If that happens, you'll get bullied all night long by everybody. So at a certain point, you have to kind of, plant your foot down or plant your flag in the ground and kind of stick with it and say, hey, enough of that. Like, I'm done with that. It's like stepping into the high school or the elementary school bully or the high school bully, I guess.
And in the end, it works out for neither of the drivers involved. There is no winner when both cars end up damaged and in the fence. And the bad part about it is both of those cars had come from so far back in the field, right? We really hadn't talked about either of them up until that point. They had both gotten into a top 10 position. I mean, Brenson Hunt started back in 33rd spot, right? They were top 10 cars, so you take advantage of other people's mistakes and other people's misfortunes. And unfortunately, both of them end up outside of the top 10 after that incident. Now, the lights go back on the pace car right into the restart zone, so the pace car, I think, will likely pop back out and recollect the field in turn number 1. That's at least the 4th time that's happened. That's what the over-under should have been, was delayed cautions.
And to explain what's going on there, by the way, is that what's likely happening in the back of the field is that someone needs to pass someone needs to let someone by to get lined up to avoid any kind of penalties, once we go green, any black flag penalties. And so what's happening is those drivers are basically stopping on track to get lined up correctly, and then the iRacing system triggers the delayed green, and we go around one more time.
So we'll try this again with a lot of familiar faces up at the front of the field. There have been 5 different cars to lead laps in this race. 4 of the 5 are lined up on the front 2 rows, but they're all chasing the number 1 is Sean Conklin, who takes the green, and back and away we go. Basson in line. He'll find himself in second. Halverson on the bottom. Clear for third. How long, though? Garrett Maines tried to get up top. Couldn't do it. Your top 5, single file, super fast.
Yeah, doing a great job as Sean Conklin was reclaiming the lead a while ago and has not looked back ever since here. He's having a great run here. That 12 is going to try and get him here. Dylan Bazin. This is Bazin's first time up here in the top 2. And caution is out yet again at Bristol.
Palladino, one of the drivers involved, the second car to the number 24 of Colby DiCario. Both of these cars were running in the 20s at the moment of the caution flag. So we will see what the relation between the 2 drivers is, and if they are related in any way or not. Let's take a look. This is DiCario.
Going through another car just loose into the corner. I don't get it. I really don't.
And there's the 27. So Palladino, slow and off track, but slow and off track simply to avoid the accident. Yes, that car has some pretty substantial front end damage. That front end damage on Palladino's machine, clearly from a prior incident, because he did not get a piece of any of that. And I wonder if these drivers, are they downshifting in the center of the corner? Because the way that thing snapped so fast, the way that we've seen a couple of these cars in other accidents, Derek, snap around so fast, almost feels like downshifting when the RPMs are too high. And when you drop a gear, basically you're chattering the tires. There's Palladino. Again, he's slow and off pace. I almost wonder if he was coming to pit road, because he was way, way low and way slow.
He really was, yeah. He just really wanted to avoid that wreck, one of the 2 in that scenario. I was trying to ponder it too a little bit, Evan. I was trying to figure it out in my head. Of course, these are open setup races. You can come in and get in the garage and tweak the car, and you can make some adjustments to make it looser or tighter. And I just wonder if some drivers have gone too far. There's that old, loose race cars or fast race cars analogy. Just wonder if some cars have gone too far, and there's adjustments, right? Inside the car, you could also make some adjustments with those spring perches, and you can do some different things, the spring offsets, pardon me, to loosen these cars up. And I wonder if people have just gone too far, I know we're not using brakes at Bristol, so I'm going to say that before I say this, but the way that car snapped around almost felt like a really wildly set brake bias. Like the brakes were just too far in one direction, and it caused that car to spin around. But I don't think that would be the problem at Bristol. So maybe it is the shifting.
definitely at this point in the race starting to pick up on some of those trends as this long night here at Bristol continues, as we still have 346 laps to go. If you're just joining us, had a couple of cars that have been strong, most of them up at the front of the field. Conklin, Halverson, Baines, Keegan Sabillo's led laps also, but it has been Sean Conklin, who did not do good out of the gate, cycled himself back through to the race lead, and is now, call it 6 laps away from leading the most laps of the race thus far. It is going to be a good restart this time, although there's a slow lapped car just in front of the leaders. How will this play out in the run to turn number 1? Side by side in a battle for the race lead, and Edward Sanchez gets down low, gets out of the way, as on the outside, Dylan Basson trying to get clear for the race lead. Can he do it in the 12th car?
He did it for a lap. He's going to get credit for leading that last lap by. If he stays there around the 1 car is the next question. He looks like he does have it cleared, and now he pulls down in lane here, and he'll be your new leader here at the Bristol 500, the iRacing special event, now up ahead of Conklin. Meanwhile, Derek Heitman is serving a black flag that he was given right at the start, and he just got turned around by someone, the 27. And I mean, that's Pedro Palladino. I have no words. The only word I can use for that is intentional.
It's interesting. That car is going to come down to the safety of the pit lane. And again, this race is going to stay under green flag conditions. So the accident in the pit lane, an interesting one. 2 cars getting together, but it has no effect on the race up front. So maybe a caution flag 2 cautions ago with some tempers boiling over. Maybe a little bit of the same with a contact between a couple of cars on the pit lane. It is short track racing. Tempers will be tested. And it seems like we've reached a portion of the night where a lot of drivers frustrated with either how they're being raced or maybe just generally with the fact that there's been a lot of cautions and a lot of restarts in this race. And that has been maybe the boiling point, or at least maybe what has been setting drivers on edge to make them maybe slightly more irritable.
Yeah, every caution, of course, not only does it come with the risk of being involved. And there is a car turned around. Oh boy. Oh, that's the 24, and that was a hard hit to the car behind him. I don't know how that wasn't a caution, but it wasn't. We stay green here, but that may have killed the car behind him.
Yeah, that's the thing, is if you're the second car in line, the damage on the front end is going to be much worse than getting damage on the front end, or on the back end, I should say, of the other race cars. So that can be a race ender, because you can get a lot of damage to the front of the car, and you'll see those engine temps go way up. Nice move by Riley Halverson, though, on the inside of Garrett Maines. It's a swap for positions number 3 and 4. So Halverson back up into the position into which he started this race in. And because Basson took the lead away, Conklin was not able to get the 6 laps needed to lead the most laps in this race. Halverson still holds those honors. 64 laps led. Conklin has 59 laps led in the number 2 spot. Garrett Maines, in his own right, he's led 18, and he's doing his best to try to keep up with Halverson here.
Well, as you read off those names of who's led a lap, I suppose you're pretty far ahead. In that one contest, we had about number of cautions or number of leaders. In fact, you're going to be 1 more ahead because caution's out again.
This time, the 29 of Justin Nanke is the driver involved. He was scored in 16th position the last time by the start-finish line. So the question is, what went wrong for a car that was having a pretty good night, as this will invite more cars to come down to the pit lane. Let's take a second look at the number 29 machine. I mean, he's in heavy traffic. Some of this lead lap cars, some of this lapped cars. And there was trouble up the road. The 6 car checked up on the bottom, and he just could not get on the brakes in time.
Good, not indeed. Got his car looped around, and around he went.
So another caution flag, and is going to bring a couple more cars to pit road for some service. We'll take a quick opportunity, though, to step aside. Dylan Basson, your race leader in the iRacing Bristol 500.
It is feature time in Tulsa. Let's go green. He's got the run, but isn't enough. It's a drag race to the finish.
Culver goes from third to first in the last quarter.
Experience the world's most legendary racing events with iRacing. iRacing special events allow any member to compete in full-length multiplayer races based on some of the biggest events in motorsports all year round. Compete in virtual endurance races such as the 24 Hours of Daytona, Spa 24, and the Nürburgring 24 Hours. Take on some of the toughest races on the NASCAR calendar, such as the Daytona 500 and the Coke 600. We have races from disciplines across the racing world, from the Indy 500 to the Chili Bowl, from the Bathurst 1000 to the Crandon Championship. Our endurance special events utilize iRacing's team feature, where members can sign up and race together on their own team, swapping drivers throughout the race. Other events use iRacing Super Sessions, where you're not only racing against those on track, but against everyone taking part. As every race progresses, watch and feel the track change with progressive time of day, dynamic weather and rain, and dynamic track debris and surface changes. Take on your favorite discipline or try a brand new racing challenge with our biggest races of the year, the iRacing Special Events. Learn more at iracing.com/special-events.
And back live at iRacing's virtual Bristol Motor Speedway as this special presentation of Race Spot TV on the iRacing Esports Network continues with live coverage of the iRacing Bristol 500. Evan Pasoko, Derek Watson up in the broadcast booth with you. Our producer, Ramiro Cisneros, is downstairs. It has been a wild affair through the opening 171 laps of action, and we are a long way from home. A split decision on pit road means that most of your dominant cars stay out and restart on old tires. Green flag in the air, and it's clear for the 12.
Yep, the 12 who got to take the lead right before that caution came out is now up ahead here, now battling, getting ahead of Conklin and others. Looking back through the field a little bit here, it's going to be a while down the field, Evan, if we find our cars who pitted. That's going to be, pretty far down the field. So no one's really in contention, I think, to fight here tire-wise for a while.
And the first car on fresh tires is Garrett Maines. A majority of the cars did decide to come down and pit. Really, it was only Basin, Conklin, Halverson, and Range who did not pit. Barrett didn't pit also. That car has dropped down a couple spots. He's in the number 7 spot. So you're looking at 30 or 40 lap old tires versus fresh rubber in tonight's race, at least. Every time somebody has had an opportunity to make something work on fresh tires, it has been a resounding advantage. So how long will it take Garrett Maines to take advantage of the fresh Goodyear Eagles? Watching the battle between Zach Range and Hunter C. Johnson. Both of these cars stayed out, and for the moment, they're dealing with pressure from Maines, but he's not blowing by them like we've seen some cars on fresh tires do earlier.
No, it is kind of interesting to watch, right? See the battle for Maines happening, about 30-some lap newer tires for him. And he's going to try and work his way through the bottom here in the back of that shot right there and work his way through. But, right, he's not dominating yet. So I think what will happen is the 30-lap tires won't matter right now, Evan. But if this ends up being the run that goes forever, then it will matter later. 30-lap new tires will mean something at some point. I just don't think it matters right now.
And again, that too is going to be better. Makes the move on Hunter C. Johnson now on Range. So it is clear there's an advantage to be on better tires, just it's going to take a little bit more finesse. And Maines wanted to get it done on the inside, or on the outside, I should say. But that 25 of Zach Range would not allow him to get up there. So the 2 is going to have to work a little bit harder to make this pass on the bottom. The outside gets the runs off of the corner. That's the equalizer. Maines may try to get clear center and then pull up. And almost as if it's on cue, it's exactly what the 2 car does to take that preferred lane away on the exit of the corner. And now Maines is up to position number 4.
Get ahead of Zach Ranger, but look at Range there, rocking. That's something we don't see often. I see an options available. The colored rims. Look at that, rocking almost like a seafoam green style of rims on that car. That does really stand out on that paint scheme, doesn't it?
It does. I mean, there's a lot of fun paints, but I don't know if I've seen chrome teal or chrome turquoise rims. So it's not a Menards or a GoDaddy bright, but those rims do some work here under the lights.
Yeah, that's a spotter's dream, isn't it, by the way? To say, hey, where's my car? Oh, I'll just look for the rims, and I'll find my car. If I'm spotting that guy, I'll find him all night long. Well, back on behind Zach Rains, that's Hunter Johnson and Lars Chenoweth. Chenoweth we've seen all night long here. Hunter Johnson we saw involved with kind of tapping the back end of a car a couple cautions ago, and he seems to be okay damage-wise. He's competing for P6, P7, so luckily no big damage to speak of for Hunter Johnson.
Yeah, so Hunter Johnson continues to slip down now into the number 7 spot with Lars Chenoweth making the pass forward position, and the Napa colors on the 14 machine of Johnson now wants to continue on the attack, looking up to the number 9 machine of Chenoweth. Can he maybe fight back in this, or is that 14 going to continue to slip backwards? If he's going the wrong direction, and again, based on the tire disadvantage, that's what I would suspect we will see. The next man up to the outside is James Holzer in the number 16 machine, also working on a better tire advantage, and especially when given the outside lane, makes it look much easier.
Really does, doesn't he? Really just kind of powered his way on through, just really just kind of drove on through, and the momentum carried him on by, and never really stopped and thought about that red and yellow machine. Doing a pretty awesome job here. Now he's got behind Chenoweth, and watch, he'll try and do it again as he got wiggled loose there out of that corner. Now up under Chenoweth, up to the top of your screen here. This is Edward Sanchez, by the way. He wiggles it and saves it on the front straight. Eddie's had some connection problems tonight. And last I looked, Evan, he's already about 8 laps down, and he'll fall further down the field, but he'll be happy he saved that race car.
Yeah, anything to keep going is an advantage as somebody's making a move at the back there. I think that was the 10, Keegan Sabello. It is down to the inside on Carson Barrett, really close to making a contact with the left rear of that 33 Ford. And again, the equal opportunity battle, we'll call it, between the inside and the outside lane, I think has faded away. The top is the place to be. So Sabello, the aggressor in this, has got 40 lap better tires than Carson Barrett, but even that is going to be a little bit of a challenge when that 33 is driving that top lane to perfection right now.
He really is, isn't he? He's really got up there. He's got the momentum run. He's staying off the wall, so he's not scrubbing speed that way. He's kind of blocking the 10 car. But here, a couple laps ago, where they were sort of lined up the opposite way, and the 33 came up and sort of put the block on. And that could have been really awful, Evan, because that 10 could have easily gotten in the back end of the 33. And I think that's why we saw that tap when he came to live to the camera shot. I think now we know why the tap was for. The tap was just a little bit of a disapproval of the move from about a lap ago.
And that is how drivers can communicate with each other, right? You can deliver a message, you can give a bump, and it doesn't always have to end with both cars wrecked out in a race. It's a long game, and drivers can express themselves, communicate to one another, and maybe that's hey, I didn't appreciate that, and maybe next time they find themselves in a battle, if there is another time in this race, then maybe that means that, you're hoping for a little bit of give as payback for all of that. The one thing that is the most surprising to me is we had almost kind of accepted 50 laps ago, Derek, that fresh tires was going to be the call to make every single time we had gotten, to me at least, I'm thinking maybe 30 to 50 laps into a run. Now, obviously, you can't pit every 30 laps. You don't have that option over the course of the race, but I thought it was pretty clear the tires were going to be that good. And it is not the longest run. Again, it's only a 30-lap difference. But I am a little bit surprised by how Garrett Maines, lead car fresh tires, is kind of stuck right now in P4. He's only made up, 3 or 4 spots from the restart?
Yeah, doing a pretty great job. And you're right, I'm surprised as well about the lack of tires here, because I thought that was going to be king. And then you're right, this time by, Maines is just trying his best to get up there. And it's just not working. So I don't know if it's just that the track is worn in, the track is rubbered in, and we're 2.5 years into that project with iRacing for the NASCAR system, where we're trying to do all the track upgrades, and now we could rubber in a lane at the track, and maybe that's the difference. But you're right, I thought Garrett Maines was sort of bullying his way to the front with those new tires.
So he's still a competitive car. I think he'll have something for Halverson in a couple laps here, but just surprised at the pace in which it has been happening at. One thing that's slowly started to happen is that the 12 and the Wanda machine that much closer together in a battle for the race lead. That 12 had been, call it a comfortable 6-7 car lengths in front, and in the matter of 5 laps, the gap has shrunk, and Sean Conklin is now lined up to the preferred lane. The 1 car on the outside. Going to be hard to beat with the big run off of the corner and back to the race lead. At lap number 204 goes the top-seeded Sean Conklin.
Yeah, Conklin's done a great job here. He has that 30 car down to the bottom of the track. So he got down there and sort of got that faster way around and left the 12 car. But Dylan Bazin up top and sort of didn't do much as far as time and gap between them. See that right there visually in front of you. But it definitely made Conklin feel like he could kind of settle for a second. But boy, right now, here they are, top lane, bottom lane, running different lanes, trying different things. But for the moment, Conklin has pulled ahead.
So now we'll see, can Conklin pull away with the advantage up front? Does that show that he's got the better race car? I mean, those cars have been out there for 74 laps on the tires and fuel on board, so they are now going to start reaping the benefits or facing the consequences of what they have done tire conservation-wise over the course of those 74 laps. That may be one of the highest lap run numbers on a pair of tires we have seen at any point in this race. It looks like a 3-car battle. It is not. Third car in line is lap down Trevor Baxter. Baxter 2 laps down in the number 20 spot is the first car scored 1 lap down. So he would be the lucky dog should, maybe some would say when, we get the next caution flag.
Well, speaking of a 3-car battle, look as the camera turns around here. Look at what's happening up in front of the 1 car. See right there on your screen, they've kind of single filed out now, but about a lap ago, Evan, they were 2, almost 3 wide with each other. So maybe now the leaders come in, they've sort of settled down and gotten in lane. But here's the leader again. The 28 car will be your next victim of being lapped by Sean Conklin. And yeah, this looks way better than it did a couple laps ago.
You can see the number 19 machine there, and Jaco Phillips, currently the last car on the lead lap, but that is not going to last for much longer with the number 1 machine clear and on through. So now Baxter, who was in the lucky dog spot, no longer the first car lap down. That belongs to Jake O'Phillips, and now Phillips finds himself in that spot. We are at 18 cars scored on the lead lap in this race, so we now have half of the drivers who started this race at least running 1 lap down.
Well, that was one of the other things we talked about. What would be more likely, cars on the lead lap or a number of cautions? And I think right now the number of cautions is getting close to, if not ready to overtake that at some point. So we'll keep an eye on that as the night goes on. But I love what Conklin's doing, just constantly using these cars and doing his best to pull up in front of them, break momentum, do what he can to put any kind of gap here. And that's the best he's done so far. With using that 22 car, now probably about, a quarter second between them. That's the most lead we've seen Conklin have, I think, since he took the lead.
Yeah, it is the biggest advantage since that car's gone to the number 1 position, and you can see on board with Tyler Basson that the gap continues to grow. Now a half a second in favor of the number 1 car up front. We have seen, I would say, that the leaders dealing with lap traffic has been almost universally uneventful to this point, Derek. It's, when you get a guy that's 7 laps down and you're lapping him, it's probably because the car's damaged. It's not really in a competitive state. When you really start to worry is if those cars are either making mistakes, right? They're damaged, they're out of control, they're unpredictable. But it's normally really when you catch cars battling for position. So they're going to want to not get out of your way because they don't want to lose the battle they're in. And again, we just talked about the dynamics of the Lucky Dog battle. It was Trevor Baxter's. Then it was Jake Phillips. Well, now Colby DiCario just got lapped. He's now the first car lap down and in the wave-around spot. So drivers are going to be taking that into consideration also and be fighting the leader a little bit, at least for the preferred lane, because they don't want to go a lap down.
Yeah, at least the first time you get lapped, right, you're going to fight it a little harder because you don't want to go a lap down. You're struggling, you're hoping that as the leader's coming by, maybe that caution comes out, maybe something happens. But I think the second and third time, if that happens that much that you get lapped, you kind of fight it less, right? You're going to listen, whether I'm 2 or 3 laps down, it doesn't seem to matter as much here. But boy, Dylan Bazin is falling back now. That's now over half a second up to your leader. Meanwhile, back to the field, this is Lars Chenoweth, this is James Holzer. These guys have been at it for a good while now, and Holzer's still trying to dig into the bottom, trying to find a way around. Both these guys pitted last time by, so they're both on the newest set of tires we have available on the track here. And that was back on lap 169, 170. So think about that here. We already are a good number, about, 50 laps into this run.
Enjoying the fact that this race has got some green flag pace to it, and it allows a lot of these battles to play out naturally. Picking up the battle for the number 6 position, that is Lars Chenoweth. We've talked a lot about him tonight, despite the fact that that car hasn't led laps. Feels like it has been in and around the leaders in a good position to take advantage, but hasn't been able to get to the number 1 spot. 10 spots gained, though, overall on the night. Dealing with James Holzer, these two of the more consistent cars in the race that haven't been able to lead laps. We've talked a lot about Keegan Sabillo as well, just behind this battle. He's somebody else who's been perennially inside of the top 10, as Jaco Phillips kind of in the way there for that battle for position, but the leader's able to find a way by, and Holzer trying desperately to get to the inside of Chenoweth.
Yeah, Chenoweth's doing a great job of holding that middle lane. He's preventing the 16 from kind of building into momentum, and what happens if the 16 come up in that corner, he knows he's going to tap the back end of the 9. He doesn't want to cause the wreck, doesn't want to make the contact, so therefore he is, stuck where he is. I'm surprised to see at some point if Holzer doesn't do that right there. He doesn't say, hey, you know what, I'm done playing games, I'm going to go to the top, and I'm just going to pass you, and I'm going to make it work. But now Chenoweth's kind of blocking the top, and I'm curious how long the patience of James Holzer lasts here in this scenario.
And it's a smart decision by Chenoweth, right? We've seen the outside has become the preferred lane. So if you're deciding, I want to fight you for this position, it is not like a Daytona or a Talladega where someone's going to get a run and you're blocking, right? Making big, aggressive moves. You just put your car where that car wants to go. And it's paid off for Chenoweth, because now, instead of having to deal with Holzer, he held him up long enough that Holzer's got his own battle to deal with. Conklin and Bassin still within about a car length and a half of each other up towards the front of the field. So give a tip at the cap to the 12. He has not allowed the leader to pull away. And now here's that battle again where Keegan Sabillo's 10 machine down on the inside and gets around James Holzer and comes up and shuts the door on him to make the pass.
So now the question becomes, how does Sabillo deal with this 9 car? Does he take the same kind of lackadaisical approach? Does he kind of say, hey, listen, I'll sit around and I'll wait? Or does he push the envelope and say, hey, if you want to pinch those corners, let me show you what happens when you pinch those corners? And here comes the 10 already up to the top of the track. He's going to try and build that momentum. And I think the 10 is not going to be as patient as the 16 was.
Oh, and into the outside wall a little bit there for the number 10 machine. So Sabillo smells blood in the water. He was able to get around Holzer. Is he going to get Chenoweth up next? Sabillo and Chenoweth, two of the cars that pitted for fresh tires, fighting against one another and unable to just kind of march through the field like we've seen fresh tires do on some other runs. But again, Chenoweth learned it. This is how he held off Holzer. Keep the 9 to the outside. And the 10 may still be quick enough to get around you, but he's going to have to work a lot harder if he wants to do it on the bottom.
Buddy, I'm telling you right now, if that 9 keeps blocking like that, he's going to end up being like one big shaken up can of Dr. Pepper, because he's going to get turned around with all that blocking. That 10 car does not look that patient. We'll come back to that in a minute. Meanwhile, up front, more lap traffic. Conklin and Bazin are now working through more lap traffic. Here's down to the 35. They're going to try to get around here, and you see it's this one long line. Now, that's what's going to happen here with the lap traffic at some point, is there's going to stop being gaps in the lap traffic. It's just going to be constantly racing somebody all the time. Under green is 35 is Jacob Klein, and there goes your leader. And there he's got a car now between himself and second place. That won't last long.
It's going to be a pretty quick one there, as through and by the lapped car, the number 35 machine. is Dylan Basin, who continues to run in the number 2 position. You can see Carson Barrett now, kind of next driver up in the revolving door of those lapped cars. So Barrett now going to get passed by the leader. He now becomes the first car 1 lap down in the number 14 spot. And the next 3 drivers only 3 seconds up the road. Now you see right there, that hurt Basin a little bit there. Could not go wide on corner exit like he wanted to. And that's nothing that Carson Barrett did wrong there. Barrett's just running his line, but going to cost Basin, we'll call it a 1/10 of a second or so. A little bit of an easier job that time with Phillips, who loses the second lap.
Yeah, I still lost a little bit of time on Phillips, but you're right, not as bad as he lost on the car behind. So now for the moment, that means our leader has about a half a second roughly. Back to that battle with the 9 and the 10. The 10 has found his way around. He has worked, it looks like, the top of the track and made that pass happen. So he got on around without conflict, did Keegan Sabillo.
Just scanning the field, looking at the top 10 battles as the field has really started to spread out. There's a second look at the touch that time. That was off at turn number 4 with the number 9 machine of Lars Cheneth getting into the number 10 machine of Keegan Sabillo at a battle for position for 6th and 7th. How about Zach Range? Haven't talked a ton about this car tonight, minus the rims. He started way back in 22nd spot, but the Ryco Performance Chevy settling in pretty comfortably now into a top 5 role.
Pretty solid run for Zach right here. A pretty great run, in fact, and a very quiet night. He's made his way possibly through some of the wrecks that happened earlier. He's kind of survived, and now definitely has a top 5 run going. And I mean, we're getting close to halfway here, Ed, but we're getting close to that point in the race. So as a driver, for me, the relief hits in. We're just about to the point where the laps start counting down instead of up. You go from saying, hey, I'm only, lap 240 of 500, and, a little bit, you say, hey, I only got 235 to go. It just feels better. So if you can make it to the halfway point and you're in the top 5 run, you feel really good in this special event.
Yeah, and you also expect that there's going to be, to an extent, less variables, right? I mean, we're looking at 2 battles side by side, one up with the number 5 spot, one with the last car, or first car, I should say, 1 lap down, and kind of how that machine is interacting with other cars for position. But a lead lap car in the 2 of Garrett Maines is just trying to get around Carson Barrett and Jacob Klein. I mean, any of these battles, with how quickly things happen here at Bristol, we've seen it happen to a couple of top runners tonight. Go from a top 5 car to parked on pit road in a matter of 5 laps. So yeah, this thing can turn around quick, but you get to the halfway point, you would think probably less crashes, less cautions in the second half of the race. So drivers really feeling like they've hit a benchmark point, and that's going to be this next time around. Sean Conklin, who is currently leading at his led a race high now 107 total laps, brings us to the halfway point. 250 laps down, 250 laps to go in the Bristol 500.
Boy, and look at this right here. This will be the biggest impact of lap cars I've had all night. 2 lap cars now 2 wide. The 31 and the 20 have now been put in between the leader and second place. And right now is one where that's James Holzer. We just saw him battling a second ago. And boy, did the leader get close into the 16 of Holzer. The 1 dug it in and did Conklin. I thought for sure contact was going to happen. Now there's 3 cars between first and second place.
Take a second look here. Here's what happened with Holzer. The 16 gets a touch from the 19 machine. Good piece of driving to save that race car if you're the 16, but for James Holzer is going to be a loss of positions. And now we are down to only 9 cars on the lead lap. Those last cars in the lead lap are ticking away, and they're falling like flies. As this ride continues, you see Cheneth now dealing with some pressure from behind. That is Justin Nankey for position, as the 28 smacked the wall pretty good. That's lap car O'Phillips. Gets into the fence. Nankey putting the pressure on Cheneth. Clearly did a good job of saving some tires for late in this fuel run.
Yeah, he did a great job right there, and just got off the wall and he was able to kind of ease back off it. Didn't yank the wheel or nothing like that. So there is your 9 car Chenoweth still just having a good run here around the 29. This is Chenoweth, and that is then Justin Nankey in the 29 having their own little battle here. But the problem they're going to have, Evan, is they're not exactly far from getting lapped themselves. They need to be aware. They need to keep up the pace here. maybe not race each other as hard and try to stay on the lead lap as long as possible.
And you wonder now, 126 laps since the last time Sean Conklin and Dylan Bassett came down to the pit lane for these cars that battle for P6. Slightly less. They certainly can go longer on fuel, and their tires aren't going to be as worn out, but I don't want to get ahead of us. I don't want the horse to get ahead of the carriage, or I guess vice versa. But you got to start thinking, if you're Conklin and company, what is going to be the magic number to come down pit road and deal with green flag pit stops? We've seen how unique and the kind of tricky circumstances that the combined pit road version of this Bristol Motor Speedway can pose under a caution flag pit cycle. Under green flag conditions, it would throw things to even more of a disrepair.
Yeah, I would agree with that as well. On pit road, by the way, back is P24 in the 30 car of Baxter. He's on pit road off cycle, so we'll see if that plays into a factor, but I can't see how that does. Here's Keegan Sabillo and Riley Halverson. There are fourth and fifth on the track, by the way. That is the black and yellow car and then that white car with the blue trim on it. The two cars we're focused on. They're trying to battle for P4, P5. Otherwise, these are lapped traffic on around them, at least up ahead of them here in this 24. Sabillo's going to pull away here. So again, it's been a long night already. We're already about an hour and a half, a little bit more than that into this race. We're now more than halfway through. The race is cleaned up. Laps are going to start ticking off pretty quick here, Evan. I mean, we're talking about turning basically 4 laps a minute. This race could be over very darn fast if it stays green here, and that's good news for these drivers. No one's done pitting. Everyone's going to have to pit again, at least for tires and for gas. No one's done that way, and Zach Range is almost done tonight because he double spun the car, hit the back end, and no caution here at Bristol.
Yeah, we stayed green, and Zach Range didn't even bring it down to the pit lane after that. He just decided to stay out on the racetrack as Hunter O. Johnson is down pit road. Is this a big moment in this race? Seemingly a scheduled pit stop for that car, as he is going to be down and in for service. Some 118 laps on the run, so by far from the longest run out of any of the cars on the racetrack right now. But that is the first time we have seen scheduled pit service tonight. That car going to be in and off of the pit lane, and because of the split pit road rules, he has to drive all the way through the opposite pit road also. So again, that's why you're going to get at least 2 laps down, and that's going to be a big factor for the leaders, right? You do not want to be one of the first cars to come down and pit, because it's going to be a dicey time through a pit cycle, and a caution would clearly trap you laps down.
Nothing in life feels longer than going down the Bristol pit road at 35 miles an hour. They're 3 wide right there. Hold on to that thought for a second. They're good. But there's nothing worse. There's nothing that feels longer or more menacing or more frustrating than driving 35 miles an hour down this pit road when there's green flag racing up above you, because it just feels like you even sniff the gas pedal, Evan. It feels like you're speeding on pit road.
50-something seconds, 52, 53-ish is going to be the total pit lane time. A lap here at Bristol is only 15 seconds or so. Some of these drivers on the oldest of tires, we're talking 16 seconds. But again, the math right there, you're going to be looking at least 2 laps down compared to the leaders. Now, if the entire pit cycle is allowed to play itself out, that will all cycle through, because everybody will give up those 50-some-odd seconds to come down to the pit lane. As you see the trouble with the 9 car, caution is out. The talk of the green flag pit cycle will be null and void, as the P5 car in Lars Chenoweth is involved in an accident at lap 271.
Evan, that's going to be right in front of our leader, Sean Conklin. He escaped that as far as I could tell when I was watching out the window here. But I mean, that's the epitome of why lap traffic is scary, because Conklin almost got caught up in something he had nothing to do with. Watch, there's Conklin in the back, that black and blue car. Here's Chenoweth making contact with the 32 a second ago. They make contact again. Up goes Chenoweth. Barely the one makes it through.
Yeah, and that's a perfect storm, because 2 things happen there. One is, you talk about the lapped car, the 32 on the outside got a little bit loose, had to chase the car down the hill, a Becerra, and that forced the 9 to kind of shy low, right? The second thing is there was also, at the exact same time, a car leaving pit road in the number 28 machine. So if the car isn't there low, Kenneth can go lower, right? If the 32 is not sideways up top, he can go higher. But in a pit cycle and dealing with lap traffic, those unique circumstances led to a 3-wide moment at the worst possible time. A top 5 car is torn up, and now all of your race leaders who had yet to come down to the pit lane are going to be in this time under the caution and outside of 200 laps to go. So I think still not within range to go the distance.
Well, and the scariest part is once that wreck happened, it was actually a car that dug below Conklin, trying to also avoid the wreck. So at one point, you could argue they were 4 wide, trying to avoid the wreck. 2 cars that had wrecked, 2 cars that hadn't wrecked. And so luckily for Conklin, he either knew that or he got lucky, because if he'd have pulled down much more, he would have gotten spun by the other car trying to avoid the wreck there and not be involved in anything.
So with everybody on pit road, Conklin will cycle through to be the race leader. No surprise in all of that, because at the moment of the caution flag, he was in the lead, so he maintains position. Basin going to be second, Maines third, Sabillo fourth, Justin Nanke in the number 5 spot. So no big shakeups. I did not catch any sort of big mistakes or anything. Also, out of the leaders, it's also worth noting for the drivers who came down and pitted, just a couple of laps ago. They're the big losers in this, because Hunter C. Johnson stuck. And he's going to be several laps down in 20th. So really, and we talked about the risk of being one of the first cars to pit. That's a perfect example.
It's a great example. So a couple cars will opt to stay out on the track. They'll get a lap back. That'll put John Schwartz back to the tail end of the lead lap. Now here we are, ready to go on a restart for the first time about 100 laps here. We'll get a restart here at Bristol.
It's a whole new ball game with a restart at 224 laps to go. Green flag flies, and the dominant car in this Bristol night race, John Conklin, is money on the restart again. He's clear for the lead. Battle for second, Dylan Basin using the outside line to defend second. Quick trouble, though. It's behind the leaders. Caution flag is out again, and sideways is the 6 of Paul Hill, who was one of the lead cars 1 lap down.
Yeah, he was one of those cars. So looks like Riley Halverson will get the lucky dog here when he's settled up and squared away. But quickly, the caution comes back out. And the drivers on the radio are saying, hey guys, remember that long green flag run? Dylan Basin's encouraging him to do it again. Let's watch what's going to happen to Paul Hill here in the 6. Watch the top of your screen, that multicolored car with the red and yellow paint, the Ritz Crackers car. Got a little loose there, Evan. Gets to the bottom of the track.
Gosh,
again.
It just goes around so fast.
It does.
And I checked the onboard too, right? We kind of thought out loud, like, is it a brake bias thing? If somebody is using brakes in the corners, I thought maybe it would have been a downshifting thing, but on board, I don't see any noticeable jump in the RPMs that would indicate that car downshifted too early. So this is not an episode of Mythbusters. I can't say it definitively, but that looked really similar to a lot of the quick spins we saw earlier. I don't see any indication of a quick downshift there. I think that's just these next-gen cars at a track like this.
I think it's just a setups. I really do. And it reminds me of real-life racing examples, and I know they happen for different reasons, but remember there was the race at Indy the one year where the cars kept maybe every 12, 13 laps. There's the race in Charlotte the one year where the sort of same thing happened where cars kept just kind of losing it. Well, that's right on board here with Hill. And you'll see, he already kind of gets a little wiggle, gets a little wall. I think it's just drivers who are just being too aggressive in how they're setting up the car. Maybe touches that white or that yellow line a little bit, but yep, there you go.
Again, fortunate, I think, in the grand scheme of things, that wreck does not become worse than it was. The challenge in terms of just overall finishing position, Paul Hill's gone to the garage, so his night is done. But I do find it interesting that there are 7 cars scored on the lead lap. There are 8 cars scored 1 lap down. So there is, obviously, we're going to focus on the battles for position amongst those on the lead lap. But it's worth noting, like, if you were in an accident as a lap down car, that's a big 6 position, 7, 8 position swing, depending on where you are in that run order. So it may be too easy to just dismiss those cars that are one lap down of not being in a competitive state. All you need is a yellow to be timed when you're the lead car of those one lap down, and you're right back in the ball game. So a lot of valuable stuff still to fight for, and still 200 laps to go in this race. Green flag flies, we're back at it. Not the best restart for Conklin, but good enough to be clear to turn one.
Already your top 3 cars look to be single file. There is your 4th place in Keegan Sabillo. He won the challenge for P3. He's going to back out of that, but up front, it's almost side by side. It's going to be Conklin and Basin. These guys, for what, Evan, the past, 125, 150 laps, have been at it all night long.
Yeah, it's exactly the case. And, we've really started to figure out this kind of main cast of characters. And with Dylan Basin now out in front of the field in the number 12 machine, can he get a period up front? He's going to have to hold. Caution is out. Several cars. Nathan Biggert is one of them. The 33 at Carson Barrett is the other. So another accident that's going to involve cars that are multiple laps down. Those two were not fighting for position, so they may be unrelated in terms of, I think somebody got stuck in somebody else's mess. The question is, who's who? Let's watch Barrett in the 33.
Yeah, Barrett in the 33 in that purple car. Just getting some wall contact. Maybe got a bit of bump from that black and green car. I couldn't tell from that angle. And then he just spins it down the track, and that's how you saw your caution for him with the cars you saw involved. So the question would be, how big it bumps was the 33 getting from that car behind him, and was it really enough to unsettle the car? Is it just another Scooby-Doo style case of the mystery of the loose race car? I don't know, but something happened there.
So an incident that puts Barrett into the outside wall. Nothing at all if you had the 26 and Nathan Biggert that you could have done. Somebody also had a great save in that one. I think it was the 14 of Hunter C. Johnson. I know things are not coming up sevens for him on the roulette table. He's not having the best luck, but he had a big save. And there's the onboard perspective from Klein. Definitely that one started with contact to that left rear quarter panel.
Yep, I would agree with that. The old NASCAR bump and run, not done correctly. He did more than rattle. What's the old quote? I just meant to rattle his cage. Well, you did more than rattle his cage there.
Square hits to the bumper. You can get away with some of that. We've seen plenty of what we'll assume is incidental contact. And we have seen some, what we feel has been intentional contact, and maybe an intentional touch, but not the intended result in that case. But it's a tricky game to try to lean and read into the nuance. If you're not the driver behind the wheel, if you're looking for trouble at Bristol, if you're looking to send a message, I promise you will find an opportunity to do so if that's what you want to do. So the interesting thing on that restart is obviously that we had a change for the race lead. Dylan Basin now cycles through to the number 1 position. Conklin had been pretty much invincible for, call it, the last, 3, 4, 5 restarts, and that probably encompassed more than 150 laps of racing, it felt like. But now Dylan Basin was able to cycle through to the race lead. He's going to have to control the field as the control car for the inside of row number 1. So is that something that he's going to be able to do, or do we see Conklin fight right back? Seems like an elastic band. Every time one driver gets an advantage, pulls out in front, kind of snaps back the opposite direction, and we'll see if that can continue this way or not. So Basin want to get control of the field up at the front. Green flag is back in the air.
Great jump there by your leaner. Basin quickly got up ahead. Now it's a battle with Garrett Maines and with Sean Conklin side by side, and this is not good for them. If they don't settle this, they could easily let Basin pull on away. Now outside lane appears to be working for the 1 car, Evan. He appears to be almost clear, and yep, he's got Garrett Maines cleared as he now walks away into turn 3 and 4.
He is clear for the number 2 position, but not before Dylan Basin is able to pull out, we'll call it a half a second advantage. So Dylan Basin, the race leader. Sean Conklin is in second. Garrett Maines is in third. Riley Halverson second. And Keegan Sabillo rounds out your top 5. Only 8 cars left on the lead lap in this race. but there is just a hair under half of this race still to go. A battle that once included 35 drivers. Right now, we'll call it maybe a dozen cars that have a clean enough race car and are competitive enough to be able to still challenge for the race lead. And Main's not willing to go quietly into the night, still continuing to try to put pressure on the number one in Conklin as the battle for P2 is ongoing. And the more this happens, better it's going to be for Bassett, who would love to be able to pull away in P1.
And I agree with you. Probably about a dozen cars who are clean enough to win this race if all goes well. The problem for at least 4 of those cars is you're a lap down. There's only 8 cars left in the lead lap as of this moment. So if you're one of those cars, you're probably the only people left hoping for more cautions and more yellows in this race. So you can put yourself back in the lead lap and try and find your way to victory lane here in about just a little over 200 laps or so.
And again, it is a long run from that point to the end. Let's take you behind the wheel from a driver's perspective and give you a little bit of Race Spot TV. This is fan immersion here at the Bristol Motor Speedway. So a lot of hard-fought action. Seen Garrett Maines there battling for position as he is able to hold what is right now the number 3 spot, just ahead of Riley Halverson, the second, scored in 4th. This battle for 3rd is just a little more than 2 full seconds off of the battle between the leaders, which is not much of a battle at the moment. Sean Conklin still within a second of Dylan Basin up front, but not missing a ton amongst the leaders. And a caution will fly at the end of lap number 311, right in front of the leaders. 2 cars involved. Andrew Dyson, that's the 34. And there was somebody else up against the inside wall. That car, though, may be taking the tow to the safety of the pit lane. But Andrew Dyson's 34, one of the drivers involved. And with the quick pit road entries, we just got under yellow. Derek, pit road already open with a lot of race leaders. Let's see what happened.
Yeah, let's watch the replay. Watch that white and blue car in the middle of your screen. It's going to get tapped by the 33. It's going to cause a checkup. And I think the 33 didn't have much choice. Eventually, the 33 is being run over by somebody else, and he kind of helped sort of push him on through, and just kind of created an accordion-style wreck where basically everyone was kind of like super speedway pushing the pusher kind of idea there.
Yeah, it looked like the 9, I think it was the 9 at Chenoweth, was a little bit slow in front. And you'll see this from Burns' perspective. It's just a big checkup, right? First car lifts, second car lifts, and that middle car just ends up as the ping pong ball, and Burren is the 4th car in line, just like how a fender bender happens on the freeway. First car breaks, second car, third car, eventually a car just doesn't slow up in time, and it's exactly what you saw there.
Yeah, eventually someone kind of misses the memo, doesn't know what's happening in front of them. They just don't have the visibility. And that's easy to overlook as well, is that, when you have a good field of view setting in your iRacing simulator cockpits or wherever you're set up, your VR headsets or what have you, all you should really be able to see for the most part is just the car in front of you, at least out of your middle monitor if you're a triple monitor user. And so it's easy to say things like, hey, why didn't you see that? Or why didn't you, figure it out? And you're like, I didn't see anything, but boy, I'd like to see if I could race on that monitor right there. Look at that big monitor that's in the middle of Bristol. Think I could maybe get an iRacing rig hooked up to that?
That'd be fun. The biggest TV that I've ever played, not iRacing on, but I have played Switch Sports on the video board at AT&T Stadium in Dallas, home of the Dallas Cowboys. It's kind of tough to beat a screen that cool.
Yeah.
But Colossus at Bristol it's got to be in the top 10, right? It's a fun one.
Maybe the ring at SoFi.
Yeah, I haven't played games on that one, but I've been able to design, full graphic takeovers for that Infinity board. That's a fun one, but something novel about saying like, oh yeah, I played a video game on an obnoxiously large screen.
I would have seen that. That had to be quite the experience here. Well, quite the experience right now for Dylan Basson. He's led numerous laps tonight. He's held up Sean Conklin, Garrett Maines. Everyone in your top 5, at least so far, Evan, has all led laps this evening.
Well, here we go. Another restart. Fresh tires for all the fast cars, and Dylan Basson still as your leader as we get back underway. Another clean restart from the front row. Hard into the outside wall, though. Halverson too high up and into the dirty stuff. Caught the fence off at 2, and that's going to allow Garrett Maines to use the inside line to make a pass for P3.
Yep, so far everything seems okay for Halverson, but I'm telling you, there's a certain amount of times when you're going to keep bouncing that wall, where you're going to have some damage like we saw for Bergoldi earlier, where you'll break that toe link or something bad will happen. So that car has a certain number of wall hits, quote unquote, in it before it's going to be done for the night, and you're going to suffer the consequences of that. So at least now for Halverson, he has gotten that car back down off the wall and is keeping off of it here. So far, just kind of single file for your top 5.
And again, only 11 cars on the lead lap, but that's 3 more than it was a couple of yellows ago. You had a wave around in there. Charles Wembley and Luis Becerra did not come down to the pit lane with everybody else, so they took a wave around under the caution flag. So that's why I mentioned, for all those cars a lap down, there are opportunities to get back and in this conversation. How about John Schwartz? Not someone we've talked a ton about. He's in the number 7 spot right now in a battle with Keegan Sabilio and Zach Range. So when other people are unable to put a full race together, have mistakes, have some trouble, it opens the door for opportunity. And somebody tried to make a move just ahead of him. Is that Sabilio trying to get under the inside of a lapped car, the Renan and Chenoweth, who are so used to being a lead lap car. Chenoweth right now, second car, 1 lap down, out of the way on the outside.
Well, let me take you back about 310 laps ago. You said we've not talked about John Schwartz that much. Remember, he was involved in make the first or second caution of the night when someone kind of plowed into him and used him as a tackling dummy to help them prevent from hitting the wall themselves. So that's a beautiful recovery for Schwartz. I mean, remember at one point got hit really hard as someone was coming down the track. And here he is running pretty well up in the top 10, P7 on lap 324.
And if you're that 9 machine, you got to fight a kind of careful balance here. The car that you're fighting with for the lucky dog spot is Colby DiCario, but a full straightaway ahead of Chenoweth. So Chenoweth can't just roll over, but is fully aware as a car that's been on the lead lap, and in a lot of these big battles up front, you don't want to be in the way of the leaders. So trying to be respectful, trying to let the lead lap cars go by. Also keep in mind, hey, the 9's got a lot riding on this. I don't think the story is done for Chenoweth tonight. Plus, even if he can't get up to DiCarlo in the number 12 spot, who you look at there, the trends would suggest we've got more than 2 caution flags left in the 173 laps to go in this race. They should both get an opportunity. That's just, I'll pull my Larry Mack, right? That's what the trends are telling us.
Oh, my God.
So there's probably a chance for both of those cars to get a wave around. So I think Chenoweth has got to be smart here. I think that 9 car can still be, a top maybe 6 or 7 car by the end of the night. But he is going to need some things to go his way. Up front, the top 2 trying to continue to pull away, leaving us with a good battle for third is Riley Halverson fighting with Garrett Rains right now in a battle for 3rd and 4th.
All kidding aside, coming back to that conversation real quick about Chenoweth and something could happen, he needs it to happen fast, though, right? You and I have been talking all night about how fast lap traffic happens, and there it is. That's the caution that needs to happen fast. We'll come back to that.
That's not a jinx. That's an I told you so. There's a difference.
That's an I told you so. Yeah, no, I was going to say, because with how fast lap traffic happens, more lap down cars could come around very fast. But, yeah.
Trying to spot the cause of this one, but again, the cautions are so close to the pit lane opening. You've already got cars coming in. Sean Conklin, the big one that stands out to me. Garrett Mains also coming down pit road at lap number 330. They have only been out there for 17 laps. This one feels different to me, Derek. I wonder if these drivers now feel like this is the number to be able to go the distance.
Yeah, this would be close, I think. This would be doable, but close. About 170 laps, and of course then you're hoping there's no green-white checkers, and you're kind of trying to finagle the math in your favor. But yeah, I think this is probably the last big stop of the night, assuming we stay green here for most of these drivers.
Just listening to the drivers as well. It'd be fun to have the driver chat just kind of open, but sometimes it can get heated, so I know we can't just leave it open, but we have the ability to listen in, and I think a lot of the drivers kind of on the same page, a little bit frustrated with all of the single car accidents that have happened tonight. But again, it has not been, here are 2 or 3 cars that have been causing all of them. It seems like majority of the field has had some sort of an issue. I still didn't see who was even in the last accident. Tells me that it was probably a quick spin that did not turn into anything bigger. Unless you saw anything, I don't notice anything obvious.
I didn't, but what it made me wonder when I didn't see anything is, of course, we don't talk about it a lot in our special events because it doesn't come up, but we do have what we call incident point limits at these events, right? So it's 17 incident points for a drive-through, 25 and you're disqualified. And when you're disqualified from the race, your car disappears pretty quickly. So I started to wonder in the back of my head if maybe the car that we didn't see involved in the wreck maybe hit that incident point limit, and that's why we didn't see it. So I don't know.
Well, either way, we're going to get set for another restart. Lars Chenoweth, by the way, has a black flag penalty. We were just talking about the 9's intentions on getting back to the lead lap. And as we get set for a restart, Chenoweth is on pit road serving a black flag penalty. So he got a black flag for passing under the yellow. That may be what takes Chenoweth out of this race. Pace car down and in. It is Basin at Halverson on the front row again. Green flag in the air, 167 laps still to go.
And I'm still impressed that Schwartz is up there in P4. I'm going to say that one more time before we move on. But here's Halverson. He is trying to get up there to Basson and make that pass. But here is a great battle with a 3-car battle. That's Conklin, that's Schwartz, that's Jacob Klein up there. Meanwhile, back there's the 24 car getting loose. That may have been what caused our last caution, actually. That's a replay. That may have been what we finally found to be the cause of the last caution, I believe.
So maybe that's the answer for the number 24 machine of Colby DiCario. Runs a lap down into the number 13 spot right now. As up front, single file until you get back to the battle for 9th or so. I think it was Zach Range fighting with Justin Nanke. Range will make a pass for the number 8 position. As you see the 29 drop back, that 4-car coming through, not for position. Rondoletto, 46 laps down.
Yeah, still fighting hard, Indy, though. Still making his presence known. And that's the frustrating part about this race sometimes. Is, boy, you can get up here and you get your damage fixed, and that car runs as well as or maybe better than the field, but you know you're 40-some laps down. So now you're out here just for pride. Now you're out here to just show yourself in the field you can do it. I think it's worth saying, you mentioned this earlier in the show, if you want to do this race, you still can. There's 4 more opportunities. One more early in the morning, Saturday morning. It's a fixed setup race, about 5 a.m. Eastern time. I'll be in bed for that, for the record. Oh, hold on, the 4 got loose. I'll come back to that. Yeah, we're good. At noon Eastern tomorrow is a fixed setup race. And then Sunday morning at 10 a.m. Eastern, the last chance to run the open setups. And then we'll cap off the Bristol special event weekend Sunday night, 9 p.m. Eastern time, fixed setup. So if you think you want to do this, you still can. So I say all that to say, when you're the 4 car right now, Evan, what you're doing now is you're running laps and proving yourself you can do this in case you want to do it again later this weekend.
Yeah, and that's the car that was, seated in the number 4 spot, again, based on iRating. Started inside of the top 5. We talked a bit about Rondoletto, but really just never got an opportunity to be up and amongst the leaders for quite some time. And yeah, this is a prove that you can still do it, because again, these special events, some of them may be standalones, but this one, of course, part of the broader NASCAR iRacing series, Derek, where drivers are going to run a full season. These special events are the full-length races. Most of the time, they're going to be running half-length of Cup Series distance, but it is not just this special event isolated. There are drivers who are running full-time in NIS and may have to attempt a couple of splits at this in order to be able to get points towards that season-long title.
Or you just love it, right? And listen, we've been watching Garrett Maines run all night. Garrett Maines already won this race this week, by the way. He's already done it once. He just wants to do it twice. He's, I guess, out there probably streaming on his Twitch channel like he always does. He wants to show off for his viewers and do it a second time. So we've already had a couple winners this week in this special event. We can talk about those in a couple of minutes, but yeah, some people just love doing it. They love turning the laps. They get the adrenaline, the whatever you call it, pumping, and they want to do it. So to me, I did it Wednesday. I don't know that I have a strong urge. My split had 28 cautions, I believe the number was. It wasn't really strongly urging to do it again. I got to be honest with you.
It is not for the faint of heart. That is for sure. And we've talked about it in the past on these special events. Some of the most fun I've had on the sim is some of the endurance road stuff. But some drivers, NASCAR racing is your bread and butter. It may be tough, it may be grueling, but maybe that's why you love it so much. And we're seeing two of some of the best drivers, Sean Conklin, a name that we are used to seeing in these positions. Dylan Bassett, obviously a highly talented driver who has led more laps than anybody else tonight, but maybe haven't seen him as much on these broadcasts as the likes of Conklin, as the likes of Maines. So I'm not trying to build up an underdog story at all, right? Bassett, somebody who deserves to be here on talent, on merit. It's not a surprise this is a competitive race car, but fun to see another name added into the battles that we're used to seeing here every couple times a year.
Yeah, so I went back looking through results 24 hours ago, less than that, I guess, since we're not done yet. Garrett Maines held off Ronnie Halverson, by the way, half a second to win the Bristol 500 last night in the fixed setup. So 2 nights in a row for Garrett Maines, he's trying to come out victorious. Also of note, Joe Armstrong won the Wednesday afternoon fixed setup race, so top split, and there's been multiple splits. And now listen, I'll say this, we focus on the top split in the broadcast, Evan, but I'm going to proudly say this. I don't care if you went top split, second split, ninth split, or bottom split. winning a special event is winning a special event. Please be proud of it. Please post it. Please celebrate, because I don't care what split it is. Winning these events is an accomplishment.
I mean, I was proud to finish top 15 in split 30 of whatever special event that I did, right, with 30-something cars in it. So there is different levels and different reasonings of success. Mine is going to be different than the drivers we're looking at here, but I completely agree. And for those of you who are watching, you're probably super familiar with, iRating and how the service, works. But if you're maybe not that into it or new to iRacing and don't know how the split seating works, is not only are these cars numbered based on their iRating, so this field has all of the drivers with the highest 35 iRating who registered for the race here tonight, and then their number ranks that iRating in the race. So the number one at Conklin has the highest iRating of everybody in this race, and then the number 35 machine would have the lowest. That's Jacob Klein, who, by the way, is running top 10. But not only that, every split as you go down, Derek, you're seated with people of a similar talent. So to your point, doesn't matter if you win split 1 or if you win split 15 or 20. For the vast majority, it means that you are racing against drivers of a similar level of experience or time that has been dedicated to the sim to accrue that iRating, and you make sure that all those splits are competitive. So you're not having any of these top split guys, ending up in split 25 and dog walking everybody. Every single Bristol 500 win this weekend, top split, bottom split, open or fixed, is a hard-earned win.
Yeah, and so currently right now, to kind of continue that point you're making, there are currently 14 splits. There are 14 different races running right now. So that's how many drivers signed up this evening. So you take 14 times 35, carry the 5, take off my socks, count the toes. There's a lot of drivers signed up this evening. About what? That'd be all kidding aside. No, I'm not going to do it. That's about what, 500, 600 drivers. No, that's going to be more than that. Let's do the math. Let's pull a calculator out. Do 35 times 14. 490 drivers. That's pretty close, actually, for mental math at 500.
Yeah, not bad.
So, commentators and math don't always go together.
I appreciate that you just went right to the calculator. That's my typical one, because my brain sometimes, we were talking to pre-race on different sports to broadcast, and I had mentioned, I think baseball would be a really fun sport to commentate because it has moments. You mentioned, football and Madden is a moment-based sport. Yep. And I love hockey, but there's a lot going on. So sometimes my brain struggles to have the words keep up with my brain as my brain struggles to keep up with what's happening on the racetrack. You add math into that equation, tough call. So I remember back in school, my teachers told me you had to know your multiplication charts, right? Because you're not always going to have a calculator in your pocket. I think that's a checkmate moment, because it's on your phone, it's on your browser, at least basic math, but there's all kinds of different ways that math ties into a game like this and into a sim. If you're the driver, right, trying to do math on, how long your run's going to go, what percentage of that run you want to be conservative, what percentage of that run, wherever in that run is it 40% in, 50 or 60, that you can kind of flip the switch and to be a little bit more aggressive. That ties in with the spotters, with the crew chiefs, and in a race like this where it's an open setup and there are so many different engineering related items that you can change on the car, those skills can find themselves to be quite advantageous here in the sim world.
Yeah, I mean, listen, the most basic way to do it, I mentioned earlier, the 13 sets of tires, take that, divide it by 500 laps. That's how often you could pit here and have tires all the way through this race. Now, 13 sets of tires is a lot. That's what you get for full length races. You talked earlier about the NIS, the NASCAR iRacing Series. Last week at Gateway, we got 4 sets of tires. It was a little different. So you're taking those 4 sets of tires, you're dividing it by number of laps. That's the most basic use of math. Sometimes, or just how many laps of field do I have left, or listen, when you get to the road endurance side, ooh, buddy, I have spreadsheets built for the team that do all kinds of math. Just, lap fuel consumption, and when are you in the car, when are you out of the car, and all this other stuff. So math is a huge part of sim racing. I think it's the bigger kind of meme or troll moment in school. You always say, when am I going to use this stuff? When am I ever going to have to use math? And you'd ask your teacher those questions. Well, if you're a sim racer, you're using math all the time. And
it's, I think, a lot more engaging when you can find ways to turn some subjects where, listen, some people just love math, and I'm not one of them, but I don't dislike math. And I think to the point of, how can different things that you learn in school, if it's, kind of standard education through high school, or if it's anything you may have studied in post-secondary, if it relates to something that you're passionate about, and in this case, the current conversation kind of ties in with how those things tie into the sim, it makes things that may alone not that exciting, makes them a lot more engaging when it has to do with something that you're passionate about. You're looking at Octavio Rondoletto right now, 23rd placed car on the racetrack. So he's running 46 laps down. We talked about the fact that he's still in this race, maybe for a confidence boost, maybe as an R&D session, and likely may take something that he learns here and move it into a later split in the weekend. Rondoletto, 45 lap old tires, exact same number as Garrett Maines. And these two cars are running almost identical lap times. One's in 3rd place, one's in 23rd, but that 4 has the speed in that race car to be successful in this event. Maybe not tonight, but he does have it.
Yeah, I would say likely had that speed, at least showing off tonight. I mean, let's finish up that math conversation real quick and talk about some news from iRacing. Is that Ford has got loose there out of the corner, and I think used the wall to kind of settle that car. I mean, it's only been, back less than a month ago, the Cosworth and iRacing united to really talk about data analysis and telemetry in iRacing. So that's coming out really soon, I believe, if I remember the press release right. So you want to get really deep into the world of math and telemetry and data and what to do with it. I mean, right now, Cosworth and iRacing are going to start working together for all that telemetry data. And if you really want to nerd out on numbers, there's lots of it inside your telemetry data.
And as we start to work into another longer run, you see some of the front-end damage on Garrett Maines. You wonder, has that been the difference maker in this race? He is not off of the leaders on pace by much of a margin at all. If anything, it's hundredths of a second on a lap-by-lap basis. But I think it's worth noting, this is a car that had an opportunity, led some laps earlier, got off cycle with everybody. We thought, okay, was he going to be able to use that to get up to the lead? And he just hasn't been able to do so. And now that you get kind of a good look at there a few laps ago, the front-end damage on that Maines car, maybe not all that shocked that that's why he just can't really stay within that 1.5-second bubble.
No, he really can't. But listen, it just takes a restart or two, a close battle or two, and he could find his way into this as the night goes on. So we'll wait and see if Maines can get up there. But right now, we've got Dylan Bazin is now around that 33 car. And Bazin's now about almost a second off of Sean Conklin. This is going to be one of our bigger leads of the night. Conklin's beginning to lap some cars, put some traffic between them, and starting to enjoy this run as the night goes on. Quickly approaching almost to lap 400, almost to the last 20% of this race is almost just about what's left here. And it's hard to think about, where we were 300 laps ago. We were different leaders, different drivers up front. Some different drivers were still connected to the session who thought they had a chance at winning. Some drivers have called it a night. By the way, Chinwith, by the way, at that 9 car, you saw he had that penalty for passing under yellow. He commented it was going to be like a 60-second penalty from iRacing. He went ahead and disconnected and called it a night, so that was the end of his race right there. So a driver that went from having a chance to get back on the lead lap, heck, at one chance had a chance to maybe lead this race, and he's now done for the evening. Up top here is Sean Conklin getting around the 35 a Klein. Does it up on the high side, in fact, here, Evan. So now Sean's having fun. Now he's racing his line, having a good time, as we're now on board with Justin Menke.
And here's the perspective of the driver of the number 29 machine, scored in P6. Nanke, the highest running driver in the field without a lap led so far in this race, has just perennially been inside of the top 10. And again, it wasn't always that way. He started in 21st. He's up to P6. Zach Range started 22nd. He's up to P5. They're in a battle right now for the final spot inside of the top 5. It feels like they've been there forever, but they picked up a lot of those spots in bulk early in this race. Riley Halverson also right there also. So it's a close 3-way battle for the number 4 spot. 3 cars separated by less than 1/2 second.
And this is one of the beautiful aspects of Bristol Motor Speedway as far as the racing is concerned, right? Is it all of you may not be racing for the lead. This isn't a super speedway, but you are racing for something. I mean, here we are, 391 laps in, and there's 3 of you battling for P4, for 4th, 5th, and 6th right on your screen right here. So there's still battles happening all night long, either on the lead lap or even cars maybe a lap or more down. Everybody is still trying to fight for something. And heck, listen, it's 15-second laps. There's still so much time left, so many laps left in this race that just keep your eyes open. Right now, it may feel like it's not happening. You may feel like if you're, in these cars, if you're Halverson, you may think, listen, I'm not going to get there. But it just takes one small mistake by somebody else to reset the field, and you could be up in the lead.
And we saw when we got to what we thought was going to be the first full green flag pit cycle of the night earlier on, that an ill-timed caution in that one took some drivers out of it. We had yet to see the bulk of the leaders come down to the pit lane, but that is also how quickly things can kind of cycle you out. And we are still just on the brink of outside of being 100 laps to go in this race, Eric, but we're rocking 15, 16-second lap times. If this race went green to the end, less than 26 minutes it would be on the stopwatch. So when we get these long green flag runs, I think currently in the works of the second longest of the night, they can knock off quick, although you cut to a shot where there's 3 sets of 2x2. It makes me nervous about that proposition.
It does, doesn't it? Yeah, it makes you a little nervous about the idea of that. And I want to say, by the way, most drivers pitted with about 170 laps to go, and some drivers pitted before that. I don't think we're done with the pit stops, right? So let's look at this here. Conklin pitted lap 331. That's about 170 laps under green if all goes well. But Dylan Bazin hasn't pitted since lap 313, for example. He's definitely going to have to pit again. There's no way I think you can take this car that many laps under green on fuel or tires. So I think for some drivers, these last pit stops could be super short. You may be discussing splash and goes instead of 4 tires and gas. But if this stays green for the next 100 laps or so, I think everyone has to come down pit road again.
Yeah, I think so too. And it may be with the exception of, there was a couple cars who pitted under the last yellow. I think Conklin was one of them also, by the way. It just seems strange to me to come down pit road on a 20-lap run, given that we'd kind of learned to that point, 50 to 60 is kind of the number where you need the tires to be of an advantage. Now, it's still got Conklin and Maines to the lead, but it just seemed a little strange to come down pit road on such a short run. It was about right at 170 laps to go. I don't know if we've seen anybody hit that exact number yet. Some drivers got close, I think in the 140, 150 range, but I am a little curious if the reason we saw cars pit at 170 to go with such a short run prior to that was a fuel-focused decision.
Yeah, I would think so too. I don't think anyone's done, but I suspect what's going to happen, Evan, is that when these last pit stops happen, if they do happen under green, is that there are going to be some really short stops. There'll be fuel-focused. There'll be possibly splash and goes, maybe 2 tires at most, I would think. I don't think anyone's going to be on pit road long enough to have all 4 tires changed on those cars. This is the battle for P8 and P9, by the way. This is Luis Bazara and John Schwartz. And Schwartz in that Bass Pro Shops machine doing a pretty solid job in that 20 car. Just riding along here and trying to keep himself in there. We've seen Edward Sanchez down pit road a bunch of times, Evan. That is a car that's now multiple laps down. So our ticker will show us that car's on pit road, but unfortunately for Eddie, not relevant to the lead lap stories of this evening.
Yeah, just a little bit of a difference. And again, finishing top 10, top split, Bristol 500, a lot to fight for Luis Bazara and John Schwartz in this battle, but just a little bit of a difference. And again, it's interesting, if this thing goes green for just a little longer as the 20 of John Schwartz there, an aggressive move that time to get around the lapped car, trying to stay close to Bazara. These 2 cars may get lapped very shortly by Sean Conklin. And it's crazy to think that, you get lapped, you feel like there was quite a substantial difference between you and the leaders. But again, the bar to get lapped at Bristol and for how many cars have gotten lapped already, again, is quite literally 1/100th of seconds.
Yep. Yeah, it really is. And it's just a matter of sometimes of, do you get stuck in traffic? Could you not get around the track fast enough for the leader got to you? Are you just a little off? You have a little bit of damage. I mean, again, right there's your leader. And there is, that's James Holzer right there. Holzer is not only lap, but he's not far off of the back of the field.
And Sean Conklin has been the car of the night. Early on, it was a pretty even mix, I'd say, of laps that Conklin had led, that Bassett had led. As you see him trying to get around the 16 machine here, more maybe closer moments than your race leader wants, is he's just trying to get around that number 16. He finally does. That's not even for our lucky dog spot. That's Holzer going 2 laps down in 13th. But Conklin, who didn't look great out of the gate, right? Qualified on pole, had the lead snatched away from him almost immediately by the car who had qualified this race in second position, or third spot, I should say. It was actually the man in Halverson who was able to get around him quickly. Clearly has bounced back. Did not lead the most laps through the opening third of the race, but has taken control. And that last time by was lap lead number 201 for the driver of that Toyota Camry.
Unless you're hearing something I'm not, what I'm kind of surprised by at this point, Evan, now you got your leader coming through and maybe either dealing with traffic's already lapped or is lapping traffic for the first time. I'm a little surprised by the lack of communication from the leader, just saying, hey guys, sometimes you'll hear them say, hey, can lap cars please, give me the high lane or give me the low lane, or hey, I'm coming up on you, or anything. I'm a little surprised by the lack of communication. I don't mean that's as a negative or a knock on Sean Conklin. It's definitely a driver preference to do it, but I feel like sometimes it makes it easier to make those passes when you're communicating with the field about, maybe where you want them to be or what's easier or something of that nature, as the 32 almost communicated the 10 with his front right bumper there.
Yeah, and you'll see that some drivers get into a bit of a panic when they feel like the race is within reach, right? You get late in the race, and they get very vocal. Unlike in the real world, where the job of your spotter in that case, right, is to kind of go up and down the roof and talk to people that you're going to be catching next and kind of give them a heads up and ask for them to give you way. You really don't get that in the sim with anybody other than the driver. You're relying on in organized league or pro-level sim racing, you're kind of hoping on the other drivers, spotters, and crew chiefs and people to let them know what's happening around you. But unless you're teammates and sharing a Discord channel, your spotter or your crew chief's not talking to other people's spotters, right? It is a lot more driver dependent for you to, if you feel like somebody's unaware or is being unpredictable up the road, to communicate that to them. And you're also hoping on them to be paying attention to their relative.
Yeah, that's true. But we're looking here at this Ninja Turtles paint team. That's pretty awesome. We got Raphael on the front of the car there, by the way. I would say a mid-tier Ninja Turtle ranking for Raphael, by the way. I just want to point that out, but I don't know. I'm a Donatello guy.
I don't have any strong TMNT opinions other than the fact that one of my favorite diecasts I have is when Jeff Gordon ran the TMNT design, I think from 2010 or 12. And there used to be a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle Monster Jam truck. So that is my...
There you go.
That's the extent of my TMNT knowledge. Pretty limited.
Fair enough. Yeah, fair enough. By the way, I do want to give you credit. You did mention something I kind of washed the back of my head here. Sean Conklin does have an in-sim spotter in Ken Braun. Ken is hanging out with Sean tonight up in this virtual spotter stand, and so maybe Ken is the one communicating, in which case I would not hear those in the driver's chat. So possible that's what's going on, as Sean's one of 3 drivers opting to use those real-life spotters. Octavio has one we talked about earlier. And then also Zach Rames, that 25 car, has a friend out there spotting for him. That would be Trey Challoner out there spotting for the 25.
Some familiar names mixed in there with some of the spotters. Is the 32 machine. Was that a bumper put to the driver in front? Is making a move on through. Was Luis Becerra there, the 35 machine directly in front, and then the 33 was the other car. I think he just straight moved Carson Barrett out of the way. Wasn't for position, but the car in front of Becerra was more laps down than he was, and I think he wanted him out of the way.
And what he's racing for right now, I believe that 32 is the second car, one lap down. He's trying to get back to Ronnie Halverson, hoping that
who's right there.
That last caution, it does come out, that he could be the lucky dog. He could be the free pass car. So he's like, hey guys, I don't have time to wait for you. If you're slower than me and if you're not taking the hints, that I need you to move, let me give you a stronger message. So you need to move. Here's a battle for the lucky dog by the Evan, and that's a battle on the bottom. The 32 gets in there side by side, and I think he's already made the pass here coming to this corner.
So a battle for position goes in favor of Luis Becerra, and that may be the explainer for why he was so aggressive with some of the lapped cars, is because with the move on Riley Halverson II, Becerra is now in the lucky dog position, and if there is still at least one caution and a restart left in this race, he now is in position to possibly beat the lucky dog in order to get back to the lead lap. Now, Halverson, Sabillo, some others, Schwartz, Wimbley, and Hunt are the other drivers one lap down. They would have an opportunity to get back to the lead lap if we saw all of the leaders pit and for them to stay out. So there's still an opportunity to do so, but we are down to just 5 cars left on the lead lap. And if this pace maintains itself, I think Zach Range in 5th would also lose his lead lap status, and we would be down to 4.
Yeah, Zach Range right now about 13 seconds behind the leader on what's about a 15-second lap time. So he is quickly losing ground on our leader in Sean Conklin. After that, there was a pretty big gap, and about 8 seconds back to Nanke in 4th. So that would be the, I guess, the challenge, quote unquote, if this stays green. Is, does he get to Nanke or not? But I mean, for what once was a pretty contested lead, it just feels like in this last restart, I mean, Conklin really has just started to drive away. He's found his comfort, found his groove, found that clean air, and is starting to pull away. And so right now, if you're Conklin, you got to kind of keep calm. You got to be excited you're leading. You've got to be happy you're up there. You've got to pay attention to the lap traffic. But, I mean, heck, it's still 68 laps to go. Anything can still happen.
It's a long way to go, but again, if it continues at a green flag pace on the stopwatch, we are in the twilight hours of one of NASCAR's longest and most grueling nights on the iRacing special events calendar, and we're happy that you have been through it all with us here with RaceSpot TV on the iRacing Esports Network. Sean Conklin at this rate will go on to lead more than half of the total laps in this race, and is holding what I will say is a comfortable 2.2 second advantage. And in the grand scheme of things, one checkup, one brush with the wall, that's evaporated. But in a race that has not had a lot of green flag runs, and therefore the lead gaps have not often ballooned to more than a second and change. 2.2 now 2.4 in favor of the leader, one of the biggest gaps we have seen. Now, we've talked extensively about just because there's only 5 cars on the lead lap doesn't mean there's only 5 relevant cars, and this 3-way battle for P7 an example.
Yeah, this is a great example. John Schwartz kind of very aggressively found his way around. There's Keegan Sabillo, who led some laps earlier. There's Roddy Halverson, who led some laps earlier. There's the 16 car of Holzer, who's been relevant throughout the race. The 4 cars back there. And now all these guys are for position. I should point out there's different laps being run here, but this is just how crazy Bristol gets. And as a leader, this is why you get nervous. These guys are racing like this with 59 laps to go. And you're just kind of like, guys, like, calm down. Because if you're the leader, one bad move by someone stacks this field up, and you need to fight for that spot all over again.
And anytime there's a battle for position, not that it can't come from 2 cars unrelated to each other. We've seen trouble between cars just happening to pass by each other in the night, but anytime you get drivers battling for position, going to be getting a little bit more desperate, a little bit more aggressive, especially the later in this race it goes, the more likely they feel that it may be that we're not fighting for positioning in a lucky dog battle. We may be fighting for our final position in this race. That is where you can find some trouble. And it's not just the cars a lap down. There's 4 cars 2 laps down, a couple of cars 3 and 4 laps down. Again, all of those are positions to be had, and because this Bristol 500 is not just a standalone special event, it ties into the NIS calendar. We've already mentioned some drivers may be toughing this one out because they will participate in other splits of this Bristol 500 over the weekend. What if you can't? You're going out of town. You need a good result. Every point may matter if you're somebody running the full NIS calendar. So it is not safe to assume that just because drivers are out of the conversation for the win, that they are out of spirit to fight for. Also, how about a battle on the lead lap to mention? Garrett Maines and Justin Nanke, 3rd and 4th position. only 2/10 apart, as Nanke is the one putting on the pressure behind the wheel of the 29.
Well, and I think the other thing we don't talk enough about sometimes, yes, winning this special events is cool and it's awesome. As someone who's won a couple, now I get it. It's a feeling that you can't really replicate. But remember, this is what we call an official race. There's iRating on the line. There's safety rating on the line. Those are important to your iRacing profile and your iRacing stats. So even if you're not going to win this race, right now for Garrett Maines and Justin Nanke, there's a possibility of walking out here with more iRating than you walked in with. So there's still more on the line than just a race win. I think sometimes we kind of forget that and we don't focus on it. But there's still lots to race for up and down this field. So lots of great racing happening here. And here we come to now 50 laps to go. So Evan, I'm going to put you on the spot. If we stay, well, let's do it this way. I'll phrase it differently. As pit stops calls are about to start happening here, 15 seconds a lap means 50 laps can be done in about 13 minutes under green. Does the checkered flag fall before or after midnight Eastern time?
Ooh, I like this one. Man, this is like an even money. I'm going to go with before, but it's not a confident before. Because I think that gives me enough buffer for a restart if we're looking at 12 o'clock on the dot. So I'll say before, but it's not with a lot of confidence. As we have mentioned, some fuel uncertainty maybe. Nathan Biggert is down pit road that time.
Yep, some cars will still have to come down pit road, so we'll factor that in a little bit here. But now, less than 50 laps to go. That means we're now 90% done. As a driver, I love to do those number of things where I kind of talk myself through the race by, hey, listen, there's 10% left. You've done the first 10%. We're 3 wide with 50 to go. My goodness. But, wow, Garrett Maines shoved it 3 wide in the middle and made that work.
And again, we've mentioned the front-end damage on Maines' number 2. Has that been a factor on his overall speed, as he has now fallen in this battle with Nanke a full 10 seconds off of the leaders. Now, Maines, a seasoned vet, going to continue to defend the preferred lane on the outside. If Justin Nanke wants the podium in this Bristol 500, he is going to have to do it the hard way on the bottom. I don't see that 2 letting him up top. Big block there by Maines to shut the door. Does the 29 feel like he has the speed to be able to make the pass on the bottom? Or does he possibly put a bumper to the 2 to get himself the preferred positioning up high? It's so tricky, though, to move a car off the top than it is to move him off the bottom.
Yeah, there's that 3 wide move again. You saw it live. We'll watch it again. And boy, just a scary moment for everyone involved, I would have to think right there. 3 wide at Bristol is not the most common of places to find that 3 wide moment. But I think the other benefit to running a race, a special event like this, or just running the NASCAR iRacing Series for someone like Justin Nanke, I mean, you're 29 car in top split. You get to rub elbows with Garrett Maines. You get to test your driving skills against Garrett Maines and possibly other drivers you and I have seen run these special events, maybe either are or were part of the NASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series. And so lots of fun to be had. The 29 digs it in deep. He got the 2, I think, nervous. The 2 wiggled. The 29 is going to make the pass. He's going to have the run here in the bottom of the corner through turns 1 and 2. They're still side by side, but the 20 is starting to pull ahead here. And nope, Garrett Maines pulls on through, got that top momentum. Well, for a moment, Evan, I thought maybe Nanke was going to make the pass happen, but Garrett Maines shows us why he is one of the best at what he does.
It is not going to be a walk in the park for either of these drivers, but that's what you want. After a grueling race, approaching 3 hours in length, some of the very best drivers in the game fighting it out on a long green flag run where timing matters, where tire conservation matters, precision, and these 2 cars seem evenly matched in the end. You are not missing anything in the battle for the race lead. Last time we mentioned it, Conklin's advantage was about 2.4 seconds over Dylan Vasson. That has grown. You can see it now, 3.1 seconds. So the leader is pulling further away as we get into the final laps here at the Bristol Motor Speedway.
Hey, up top, you saw that note for Jacob Klein. That's that car on the bottom of your track right there. I'm going to guess that's a blown tire. That does happen in iRacing where your tires get down to 0% and you're required to come replace them. I didn't see what happened to his car, so I'm not definitive. But that's an interesting story to follow. Some drivers are not really great at saving tires, and you can find yourself in that situation. So I bring it up with 35 to go to say, you and I have been having this talk all night long about pit stops and gas and tires and what if and when and how and why and all the questions that go with it. When you see Jacob Klein have that kind of problem with 30-some laps to go, in fact, it is a tire, then it starts to raise some doubts about who else. Dude, there's Roddy Halverson. I have to think that's also going to be a tire issue. I'll see if we can find that view on Halverson, make sure he didn't hit the wall or something. But yeah, some cars starting to fall quickly here to required repairs, about 30 laps to go.
So Halverson, unfortunately, is going to have to bow out of a competitive state in this race with the number 18 Tavashita forced down to the pit lane. I was also just taking a quick look at, what the last couple of laps have been for Halverson. I don't see any major contact with the wall, so I'm a little curious if 130 or 153 laps does seem long, but I wonder, you will get a black flag penalty for required repairs if you do wear the tires out to zero, right? Yep. Essentially a flat. So I feel like that's the territory we could be in. And if 153 is a benchmark, maybe not the benchmark, but one of them, as Charles Wimbley also, you just saw they are going to get a black flag with the required repairs. Your leader, Conklin, above that number at 141. Dylan Basson way above that number at 159 laps ran. So your leaders may just have to nurse these things home in the final 30.
Yeah, I don't...
it's a caution.
Never mind. There it is. Caution's out. Talk is over. But yeah, that was getting interesting because I don't think Basson specifically could have made it just on gas. Never mind the tires. But... well, there's Conklin coming on around. Caution's
pit road's going to be open here, so curious
watch him come
if
down.
We're going to have anybody dive to pit road. You can see behind the leader, Conklin is going to be in. So if there were any questions with fuel and tires, that could be nullified. There are only 4 drivers scored on the lead lap. I would be surprised if not all 4 of them just decide to come down. And all of a sudden, you could wipe out the 470 laps we've ran so far. It is going to be a mad sprint with the iRacing special event on the line. And again, it's a long way around for the one car. But yes, Conklin, Basin, Mains, Nanke, all lead lap cars are down pit road for service.
And speaking of the one cars, one lap down, a couple of different strategies. In fact, all of them may have come down. See, Zach Range did not, I don't think. John Schwartz did come down. Luis Bizarra has taken their wave around, so we'll have at least one more car on the lead lap, by the way, so it'll be at least a 5-car battle. Now, Bizarra will be well behind on tires, so he'll need another quick yellow to kind of solidify that. Nope, you actually take that back. Bizarra has decided to come down and take tires as well, so no one took the wave around here, Evan, so it's literally going to be maybe a 4-car fight when all said and done.
Pit road's going to open the next time by for lap down cars. We'll see if any of them decide to take advantage. Looks like Charles Wimbley's down pit road. No surprise that car was just in to serve a black flag, a penalty. And we look to see, will there be a slew of wave arounds for drivers who will negate any pit service to come down and in. I see Luis Bizarra, but that car is on pit road. That's going to be a timing update anyways. So there's a chance the number stays at 4 or just to 5. But yeah. Conklin, Basin, Mains, Nanke, equal tires, right? We've seen them pretty much on the last run, Derek, I'd say be on equal tires anyways, right? Haven't seen anybody really off cycle in a while. Equal tires, I don't know if I put them in any other order, but all you need is to drive it a little bit differently. Short run, maybe somebody surprises us here.
Well, the problem now for a lot of drivers is going to be that the aggression is going to pick up, right? Now you know there's 25 laps to go. You're literally legitimately talking minutes on the clock if this goes green. You cannot waste any time. You have to get aggressive. Those bumpers are going to get used more. You'll see people more willing to dig it into the corner. And so what once was a race that looked like maybe it was pretty close to being over, this is going to get highly, highly contested. By the way, I want to point out I was kind of on the right path. Luis Bizarra, I believe, was the lucky dog. That's why he was shown on the lead lap there. He is on the lead lap. He's all the way in the back of the field, though, so he'll have to be a long battle. But there are 5 cars on the lead lap as we go green here at Bristol.
23 laps to go at the Bristol Motor Speedway. Conklin, dominant car on the night, first needs to get clear off of the restart. Can he do it? Big bobble by Dylan Bassett on the exit at turn number 2. And as they come off of 4, Conklin is clear for the lead. Bassett crossing over to the bottom, but the one car, the preferred lane, trying to mount a defense.
That 12 car is trying to keep him on. She's trying to keep the back fender there up against him, not let him get the full run he wants. And they're both kind of blocking each other, but now he's clear. Conklin has now got back in front of the 12. Can he stay here is the question. Nope, because caution is out yet again at Bristol.
And it's trouble on the back straightaway with Carson Barrett around and on the inside wall. Unfortunately, that car is going to be an innocent victim in all of this. The 25, there it is where it all starts. Zach Range. I know some drivers frustrated with the lapped cars being involved in things, but we've talked about how important the lap down cars are. Single lap down, and that's Zach Range. That's a top 10 car. I know it's a lapped car, but that's a top 10 car in a battle for position.
Zach Range, in fact, only one lap down. You could argue he's technically still trying to get back for his lucky dog fight. So that will go to John Schwartz, by the way, in that Bass Pro Shops number 20. You see him up there. He's going to come around the field in just a moment. Let's watch this again here. See what's going to happen. This is the 4 car. Gets on through. And he tried to avoid the wreck as he saw it and ended up going up the track and slammed off it pretty hard. That car has got to be done.
So it's going to eliminate green flag laps in this. We did see Luis Becerra get back to the lead lap, so that made it a 5-car total. John Schwartz, I believe, getting the wave around right now. So we'll be up to 6 cars on the lead lap as we take a second look at what happened again. There was a lot of pressure from behind, but I think Range got loose on his own to start it.
I mean, that's been the trend all night, hasn't it? Cars getting loose and then getting little bumps and a little bit of assist thereafter. So unfortunately, that appears to be what happened here as well. So we talked about the aggression was going to pick up. It was going to get more busy, more aggressive. And I think that's also going to be drivers are going to push harder, which is only going to make these cars a little looser as this race goes on. Well, here it is Barney the flag man. He's got the yellow flag in hand. He'll change it up to the green flag in a moment. That's how you know we'll 1 to go here at Bristol. And we'll do that. So we'll probably get started again with about 16 laps on the board.
And you would think the less amount of green flag laps left in this race would benefit a Sean Conklin because it's less opportunities under green for somebody like a Dylan Bassett to be able to mount an effort to fight him. But admittedly, that was a pretty good restart for Dylan Bassett. If he's a quarter car length further up on the restart and that one can't seal off the outside, Bassett just needs to be with him. The top is better in a side-by-side battle, so I don't know if the conventional, the less green flag laps, the better for the leader, thinking can be true. But Conklin's there, Bassen's there. They are the 2 to watch for sure. Does Nanke or Maines, Becerra or Schwartz, can any of those other 4 drivers on the lead lap enter this conversation? Sean Conklin has led 273 laps in this race, but can he lead 16 more to the end? Green flag back in the air. This time he's clear to turn 1.
Yeah, much better jump, much better restart here. That'll lead the battle now for Garrett Maines in the 2, and then for Dylan Bassett in the 12, possibly, but they got single filed out pretty quickly here. And it's just going to be a fight up front. Conklin has the lead. Bassett wants it. Now, the question I have in my mind here with about 15 to go is if or when Bassett uses the old bump and run. When does he use the chrome horn, the fender, whatever you want to call it? When does he make that car wiggle and try and find his way around the 1 car?
And Maines and Nanke can't hang. 2-car battle for the race lead at the moment. Here goes Bassett down again to the inside. Sean Conklin, though, has been the dominant car of the night. He's been the best car on the long run, but he's going to need to use the short run speed to finish the deal. He has the preferred lane, but Dylan Bassett is still right there on his quarter panel. Count it, 12 laps to go at Bristol.
I'm a little surprised by Bazin here, honestly. I know that Conklin's doing his best to block the top here, Evan, but if I was Bazin, I would be trying to force my way into the top lane, not the bottom. I would back this up a little bit. I would get up there to the right and get on top of the one car. See if I could now be the controlled car, so to speak. I don't like this move. I don't think you're going to complete the pass here with 10 to go on the inside. He's trying. He's being stubborn. He's being aggressive, and I like all of it, but I would rather do it from the top side.
And if you're the 12, again, we talked about this in the battle between Nanes and Nanke earlier on in these closing laps. What happens? Caution is what's going to be next, though, which will take another bite out of the laps. It is Colby DiCario, P11, who has gone around. This is going to bridge us well into the final 10 laps of this race, and it will be another fast race car that has endured so much that has a single car spin in the final laps.
Yep, this will take us past that midnight marker. We talked about the 24 just got loose again. It's got it around. That's the first time we've seen that, and this kind of kept it spinning. So black flag for him, likely for incident points. So that'll stack onto his bad night for DiCarlo. That'll add another car back to the lead lap, and I believe that car, Evan, is going to be Keegan Sabolo, a car that we saw lead some laps earlier. He'll, of course, have to start at the end of the longest line for being the lucky dog, but that'll now put us up to 7 cars on the lap, and then John Schwartz will be allowed to start up here with the leaders this time by.
He is going to be able to be up there, of course, before taking the lucky dog was at the tail end of the line, so had a lot of traffic. He's going to be in the conversation. Sabillo gets the lucky dog, will come to the pit lane. He'll be at the rear, and I do not think, unless we have another restart, would then be able to kind of start alongside. But funny how we were down to 4 cars on the lead lap, now back up to 7. We talked about how important those battles were for the cars to lap down, and the top runners of that group now find themselves back on the lead lap late in this race. And again, Conklin and Bassin just look like they're so equal. The only differentiator I've seen between those cars in the final half of this race has been the long run, where Conklin started to slowly but consistently build an advantage. But on the short run, they're so equal. And obviously, Conklin has the advantage of the track position. I just don't know if Bassin being equal to the one and almost guaranteed to be forced to the bottom, which is the non-preferred position, if he could make up for that. I think if they flipped roles, I think if that 12 could get to the outside, he's got a real chance to win this thing. But 2 equal cars, I do think track positioning and lane choice matters a ton.
If I'm the 12, I don't give it the top here. I just don't. I don't move to the bottom, right? Even if you have to maybe use a little bit of the bumper because you're both trying to run the top side. Obviously, it's become obvious that the top side is dominant here as this race goes on. I do not give up that position. I fight for it pretty hard. Of note, by the way, John Schwartz smartly, actually did not pit for tires back in 474. Luis Bizarra pitted for tires, so we'll see if that matters. He's on new tires back in P6, so keep an eye on that. We're about to go green.
Was it the final restart of the night? 5 laps to go in the Bristol 500. Check up on the outside, but it doesn't affect the front row. Conklin clear for the race lead again. Bassett in second. Where does he go? Yielding to the inside in the tire tracks of Conklin. 4 laps to go.
Oh, he's got there. He's not going to let it go. He's on his back bumper. How they're not wrecking, I don't know, because that looked like some good old contact, but he is trying really hard in this 12, Evan.
Got into the quarter panel, caution flies, but Dylan Bassin was scored as the race leader. At the moment of the caution is the incident with Becerra. It is the car that had just gotten back onto the lead lap, and Dylan Bassin, who had not completed a pass for the lead, and Derek likely would not have because Conklin still had that preferred outer lane. But the timing of that caution is so critical in the center of the corner where the car on the bottom and on the shorter route is almost always with a nose in front, means that we will have a change for the lead with this caution flag.
Yeah, we will. And that was my first thought when I heard the caution come out in our ears. I thought for certain, I was like, hey, we want to check the scoring line. And you instantly got it that the 12 car has taken the lead here. And this is going to get good. Now, pit road has been open, and none of our leaders have come down as of yet. I got to be honest with you. If I was someone in the back, I mean, the quote-unquote the back of the lead lap, if I'm a Nenke, if I'm a John Schwartz, if I'm a Keegan Sabillo, I'm running P6 on the lead lap. I don't know what I have to lose. I'm come down and put new tires on it just in case something weird happens. So we'll see what happens here. They're not going to do it though. They're going to stick in line. And again, if I was going to fall down to P6 at the end of the lead lap, I'd put tires on it.
And with Becerra down pit road, he was involved in the accident. No surprise. We've seen Zach Range. We've seen John Schwartz also to pit road recently. But this race is going to be headed into iRacing overtime. And all of a sudden, the car, by all descriptions, as the best of the night and the most deserving, is going to have quite the challenge on his hands. Conklin leads 285 laps as we hit scheduled distance this time by, and will be at a disadvantage for the restart. And now all the talking points we used to describe the challenges that Bassett would face, needing to be either better on the worst lane or to get a good restart, now apply to the driver of the number one machine. And again, he could reap the same benefits of a well-timed caution, because we need to get to the white flag for this race to be official. So what happens, and if you're Sean Conklin, can you salvage a Bristol 500 that maybe 5 minutes ago felt like it was a guarantee? It is going to be attempt number 1 at iRacing overtime. Bassin, control car, will restart this race for the insider at number 1. Conklin to the outside. He's in second, with Maines, Nenke, and Schwartz in the top 5. Green flag in the air, 2 laps to go, and Conklin's right there on the outside.
Yeah, he's not going to let him go. Oh, no, he spun. He spun. He got too loose. He's back in the field. We're going to say green. We're coming around to turns 3 and 4. The white flag is about to be out, and Conklin's out of contention.
White flag flies. This race is official. Sabillo bounces off the fence in a battle for 4th and 5th. But how about Dylan Bassin? Was out of it with 25 to go. Had some strong restarts. And Dylan Bassin is a Bristol night race winner.
Wow.
What a way that this race was turned completely on its head. Just rotten timing for what would end up being the final caution to flag the night for Conklin, and then just gave it too much. In the final restart, Derek, too aggressive on the outside, puts himself into the wall unassisted.
Wow.
And for as much of a shock as it is, this man here still led over 120 laps, but clutched up when it mattered the most, and the late race drama provides a surprise Bristol steal.
I mean, listen, I don't want to take away from Dylan here. He ran a great race. He deserves the win. I don't want to make this sound like it's any kind of a fluke or a bad moment or anything of that nature. But the heartbreak for the one to come into the final couple of laps, get that car loose, and just, you know, for all intents and purposes, throw away a win. Heartbreak is the only word I can come up with right now.
He did not stick around post-race much. Sean Conklin parked the race car and quickly left the session. Maybe did not have to watch the celebration that he was hoping was his, as Dylan Bassett is celebrating all over the property of this Bristol Motor Speedway. It will drive into Bristol Victory Lane up on the iconic roof in the infield. Despite all of those stats, still somehow feels like a shock.
It does feel like a shock. You're right. I mean, again, he's so deserving that I hate saying it's a shock here. Let's take a look at the results. But yeah, what a wild finish.
And we take a look at your iRacing full race results, and it'll be a Toyota 1-2 as Dylan Bassin gets the win to Garrett Maines with a damaged front nose. Endures, wins out in the battle for Schwartz, and therefore they finish in that order, 2nd and 3rd. And then some late race benefits for the likes of Keegan Sabillo, Sean Conklin, Zach Range taking advantage of some yellows and some waiver rounds. They'll finish on the lead lap. And then James Holzer along with Justin Yankee, Luis Becerra. They're all 2 laps down in 7th through 9th. Hunter Johnson rounding out your top 10.
Going to be back into P11. These are car 3 or more laps down. Colby DiCarlo, Riley Halverson, who had a great run tonight, Nathan Begart in that Ninja Turtles car, Brad Newman and Charles Wembley round out your top 15. Then it's Carson Barrett, Jacob Klein, Vinicius Burren, Andrew Dyson, and Brinson Hunt back in P20.
Continuing on through, Jaco Phillips comes home in the number 21 spot. Octavio Rondoletto in 22nd. That was a car that started up front. Lars Chenoweth, talked a lot about him earlier. Can't put it together. 23rd. 24th is Edward Sanchez. Paul Hill, 25th. Trevor Baxter, 26th. Joseph Galata, quiet tonight. Despite a P2Q effort, just fell apart early for him. In 27th, Cody Johnson is 28th. Pedro Palladino, 30th. And Derek Heitman is that number 30 spot.
Moving back into P31, you'll find Matt Cox and then Paul Bergoli, who wrecked out pretty early. Tanner Love, Sean Anderson, and Jacob Brouwer round out your 35 car field.
Let's look top to bottom at your iRacing full race results. And we will wait to see if we can get a word with the race winner. In the meantime, Derek, our runner-up in this one, Garrett Maines, who had a good night in his own right, led 18 laps and was in contention all night long. I think he's available. Let's see if you can get a word with him.
Yeah, let's go ahead and do that. Let's go ahead and welcome in Garrett Maines into the broadcast booth. And Garrett, wow, I mean, first off, what a finish that was. I know you had a pretty good view of it from your spot to see the one car go spinning. What went through your mind as that moment happened, first off?
I mean, my entire goal coming into this was to, just get a podium. I haven't run open racing since the beginning of the year, not running Coke Series this year. It's just been, kind of a focus on road course racing and a focus on the real life stuff. And I just, I ran fixed last night and I was like, you know what? I want to run open, and I couldn't find anything to run. So I just tweaked on the fix set. I literally, I knew I wasn't going to win tonight. If I did, I would have backed into it, and I almost did. But, just kind of right there, like you said, right there behind it at the very end, to come away second tonight. Really happy with that result, and, shout out to my crew chief at iRacing for putting together a pretty darn good fix set.
There you go. That's a good run, right? So you won last night. So, 24 hours apart, you've basically run about 1,000 laps at Bristol, maybe a little more with the overtime. Is there any more Bristol 500s in Garrett Maines' future this weekend?
I highly doubt it. That would, it'd be nice. I wish I had some more time, but really just, I saw the broadcast was happening tonight. I always love this event, and hopefully I'll be back on a team and be able to run some more competitive oval racing. But, got to give a huge thank you to Wigan Water Technologies for all of their support this year, because without them, I would not be, racing road course stuff. Also, big shout out to Scott at MCU Body. Same thing. Like, everybody that's been so instrumental to my real life career, and hopefully be back on the sim doing some Coke Series racing next year too. We'll see.
Well, listen, it's always a pleasure watching you race. Congrats on the P2, and I was gonna say have a good evening, but I think now we're into the morning time. So have a good morning, I guess.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, that is Garrett Maines coming home P2 at this race.
Well, I think it is a point proven, right, for somebody who hasn't done a lot of open racing like this split was, not competed in the NASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series this year, that he still got it, right? And anytime you see Garrett Maines in one of these sessions, he's the guy you've got to watch out for, and a statement, we'll call it P2 for Garrett Maines. Now, let's move things up and talk with our Bristol 500 race winner. Dylan, congratulations on the win. First off, let's start with the crazy final few restarts and the timing of what would be the final yellow that gave you the positioning there for the overtime restart.
Yeah, I got pretty lucky right there. We were racing so close together, and we just barely net coded, and that was all the difference. I got in there to turn 3. If the caution came out, half a second later, he probably would have had it with the run he had in the top. But the timing was perfect, and I was a little angry at the end because the run before that long run, he had fresher tires than me the whole time because pit road opened after I passed it. But him being in second, he had time to go down to pit road, so I spent the whole run in older tires. And I was just frustrated because I was like, I'm only like half a tenth off of him, and I'm on 20 lap older tires. if I wasn't the same equal tires, I'd have a shot at this. Like, we were equal before in the previous long run. So I was sitting there, I was dooming, I cannot lie. But those cautions came out at the end. I just had one job to do, and that was time those restarts and get that move done on them.
Yeah, I don't know if I've ever seen somebody lead 123 laps in a race and it feel like a surprise, right? But the way things fell together late in it obviously benefit you. But it's not just a night where you stumble into it. I mean, the car was competitive. You guys started inside of the top 10, where most of the cars who started up front tonight seemingly could not survive it. What was kind of the broader picture for you tonight to be in position when that first caution came out at about 30 to go?
Honestly, when that yellow came out, I was like, it could either hurt me, like I could either get, go into turn 1 and get junked and be like, dang, that sucked, I could have just came up P2, or I could have gotten the shot at the win. And man, our short run pace right there, I mean, I just low fueled it. We got the perfect adjustments in there, and I was all over him. It's just that top lane, and Sean too, I gotta give credit to him. He's a great guy to race around. He's fast, he's clean. He doesn't need to use the bumper or the door to go past you or battle you. Like, he just does it flawlessly without causing any problems. So I knew it was going to be difficult, and that little bit of net code, while it hurt him, saved me. And my only goal was to time those restarts and stick in the top side, because I feel like if I had to get stuck on the bottom like I had been the restart before, then I never would have had a shot.
We appreciate you being a part of this one and racing late into the evening. We'll give you the floor. Anybody you want to say hi to for this one?
Oh, say hi to the family that was watching. I sent it to them about halfway through the race. I didn't know this was going to be live streamed. And I'd like to thank Team Conti for the support they give me and the setups that we build every week. Without those guys behind my back, we wouldn't be as competitive as we are now. And thanks to you guys for coming in here and broadcasting this race.
We appreciate you jumping in too. It's a long night, so we appreciate you jumping in and giving us your thoughts again. Long night, hard-fought battle, and a well-deserved win. Congratulations.
Thank you.
It's your race winner tonight. In tonight's top split of the Open iRacing Bristol 500, big thanks to both Dylan, our race winner, and to Garrett, our runner-up, for giving us a little bit of time post-race. And again, this is not the end of the iRacing Bristol 500. There are ample opportunities for both open and fixed racing fans alike to still participate in this event over the course of the weekend. But at least for our portion of the broadcasted special events for the NASCAR special events, a closing chapter here, Derek, from the Daytona 500 to the Coke 600, the Brickyard 400, and now here in the Bristol 500, we have seen a lot of great action over the course of those events this season.
Yeah, we have, buddy. And listen, it's been a pleasure doing it all season long with you, all 4 special events, getting to sit side by side and make it happen. Lots of exciting races for all 4 events and different finishes. I think different winners for all 4. But everyone's had their own highlights as the year has gone on.
And plenty more opportunities to make some more highlights and memories as the iRacing special events calendar rolls on. Again, this Bristol 500, multiple more opportunities for both open and fixed racing over the course of the weekend. And if you want to participate in any of the other iRacing special events, there are plenty of them. If you're an oval fan, if you're a road fan, if you're a dirt fan, there's a little bit of something for everybody. You go to iRacing.com/special-events to find that full schedule. Until next time, that is it for us here tonight from Thunder Valley. On behalf of our entire team at Race Spot TV and iRacing, and for your broadcast crew tonight, for our producer Ramiro Cisneros, for Derek Watson and myself, Evan Pasoko, want to say thanks for tuning in and congratulations to Dylan Basson, who is an iRacing Bristol 500 winner.